Chapter 503. At the foot of the heavenly Een mountain, the 6 great sects were in a chaotic battle. Endless Een led the Black Moon sect to scatter the disciples of the other great sections. All of you stop. All of you stop for me. Your sect masters are in my hands. Put down your weapons and surrender, otherwise I'll kill them and then kill you all. Chu Tian set up a giant loudspeaker on the mountain and the rolling sound waves were like thunder. Father will do what he says, please don't test my patience. While he was speaking, Nangong Yun pushed the tied-up people to the cliff in a row. The sect leaders and elders of these mountain sects had all been captured. This was a destructive blow to the morale of the 5 spiritual mountain cultivators. The situation was already bad, and now that their sect masters had been captured, how could they still fight? Chu Tian shouted into the loudspeaker, this matter is purely a plot by the Heavenly Sword sect. The Heavenly Sword sect has colluded with the Eagle Burial Kingdom. In order to obtain more benefits and resources, they have allied with other races to sweep through all the large and small sects of the Great Zhou country. This kind of despicable act is simply the punishment of the heavens. Nangong Yun hung up the corpses of the Eagle Burial Kingdom generals. Open your dog eyes wide and look, these are the consecrators of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. We have already found enough tokens and evidence on their bodies, these fellows are the generals of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. The Heavenly Sword sect has betrayed the Great Zhou country, so the Heavenly Sword sect is the true enemy. The crowd instantly fell into chaos. The 4 great sects looked at the Heavenly Sword sect with vigilant eyes. Nonsense. The Heavenly Sword sect has existed for 10,000 years and is the head of the Great Zhou country's sects, how could they join the Eagle Burial Kingdom? The Heavenly Sword sect people instantly panicked. If what Chu Tian said was true, the Heavenly Sword sect would be enraged and these Heavenly Sword sect disciples would suffer a calamity. Chu Tian shouted into the loudspeaker, whether you believe it or not, the evidence is like a mountain. I'll say it again, stopping at the edge of the cliff can be forgiven, but resisting to the end will not be tolerated. I'll give you 10 more seconds to put down your weapons, otherwise I'll kill your sect masters and elders first before sending you to see your ancestors. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay. In the end, they all threw down their weapons. Chu Tian let out a long sigh of relief, he had finally dealt with these fellows. He immediately ordered, Endless Een, immediately tie them up. Treat the injured and wait for the poisoned, don't let them die. The crisis of the mysterious dark sect was successfully resolved. They had captured over 300,000 captives. Everyone in the Xianin sect looked after them together to prevent these people from causing trouble. Chu Tian didn't come to the Great Zhou country to start a war, he only saw the Great Zhou country's rich talent reserve, the Great Zhou country's good location, the Great Zhou country's rich resources, and the Great Zhou country's unexplored market. Chu Tian was here to develop the Great Zhou country, so he didn't need to kill too much. He immediately told the company to prepare medicine and antidotes, as well as enough food, saving the lives of these captives first. Go in. Go in quickly. Damn it, hurry up for this old lady. Kneel. Nangong Yun pushed, kicked, and hit like a beggar, sending the 4 sect leaders in front of Chu Tian. Do you believe that I won't break your legs? How many times have I said it, don't be so violent. Chu Tian seemed like a different person as he lectured in a serious tone, we're all civilized people, so we should use virtue to win people over, do you understand? Nangong Yun rolled her eyes. I'm sorry, I didn't manage my subordinates properly and made you suffer. Chu Tian waved his hand at the 4 of them, Nangong, why aren't you bringing them tea to apologize? Nangong Yun's eyes popped out, boss, are you mistaken? You actually want me to apologize to them? This old lady not castrating them is already courteous enough. Yuan Jinnan's group of 4 were all famous people in Great Zhou. Nangong Yun's words made them feel a chill. Chu Tian helplessly waved his hand, all right, I have no intention of making it hard for you, so let's have an open and honest chat. I'm prepared to rebuild the Great Zhou royal family and push the Great Zhou princess Chen Bingyu onto the throne as the Great Zhou queen. As long as you're willing to support me, I can let you go and all grudges will be written off. Who do you think you are? Jean Kuei looked up with a swollen face. His eyes were red as he gritted his teeth. What qualifications does an outsider have to care about the great Zhou country's matters? You have guts, you're a man. Chu Tian narrowed his eyes as he spoke with a laugh, but he gave Nangong Yun a look. Nangong Yun charged forward and placed Jean Kuei on the ground. She raised her boot and kicked his crotch. This 2-meter-tall giant let out a bear-like howl. His body curled up as he painfully rolled around on the ground. Nangong Yun fiercely picked him up and pulled out a short knife from her waist. This kick is only a lesson. If you dare not give me face again, this old lady will cut off your 2 toys and put them in your mouth. Jean Kuei angrily roared, if you have the guts, then give me a quick death. The Black Tortoise sect can be killed but not humiliated. All right. Nangong Yun angrily raised her knife and was about to attack. Nangong, stop, quickly stop. How could you forget what I said to you before? We civilized people have to use virtue to win people over, we can't use force to solve problems. Chu Tian stopped Nangong Yun, I respect unyielding heroes the most, so don't make it hard for this sect Master Jean. Chu Tian's eyes fell onto the others, what do you guys think? The Void Spirit Cave's Gu Lianshan said with a calm face, Brat, why do you need to say so much? We are lucky to have the previous sect master's trust, allowing us to control the 10,000-year-old sect. If we submit, how will we face our ancestors? That's right. Medicine King Valley's Wang Tianyun lightly said, if you think you can force us to submit, then you are underestimating us too much. The godly machine Hal's Yuanjinan was filled with righteous indignation, if you want to kill us, then do as you please. They were all hard bones, this was a bit difficult to deal with. Nangong Yun's eyebrows were about to explode. She did not believe that if she taught these fellows a lesson, they would be as hard as they were now. Don't be nervous, don't misunderstand. Chu Tian stood up with a sincere smile, you must have made a mistake, did I say I wanted you to submit? No, my territory still has a lot of things waiting for me to do. There is also a lot of resources and land waiting to be conquered. Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but a place like Great Zhou, I really do not place it in my eyes. Then what do you want? I just want to cooperate with you all. Chu Tian calmly explained without any threatening tone, right now the Great Summer Country and the Warhounds Plains have a close relationship with Miracle Commerce, but the Great Summer Country and the Warhounds Plains are a bit weak. If the Great Zhou country can join this alliance, we will have enough confidence and strength to expand into the surroundings, connecting all the nearby large and small kingdoms, finally forming a barrier to block the Eagle Burial Kingdom in the north. Whether you believe it or not, the matter of the Heavenly Sword sect colluding with the Eagle Burial Kingdom is an ironclad fact. Since the Eagle Burial Kingdom has already infiltrated Great Zhou several years ago, I think Great Zhou is not far from war. The Eagle Burial Kingdom was a very strong country. In just a short 10-20 years, the Eagle Burial Kingdom had wildly expanded their territory, swallowing at least 20 large and small kingdoms, and they were still wildly expanding. The Great Zhou country was stronger than the surrounding kingdoms, so the Eagle Burial Kingdom did not easily bite this hard bone. However, everyone knew that the Eagle Burial Kingdom would invade Great Zhou sooner or later. The matter of the Heavenly Sword sect colluding with the Eagle Burial Kingdom had provoked everyone's nerves. As the leader of the Great Zhou country, the Eagle Burial Kingdom could even bribe the Heavenly Sword sect, showing their intent to invade. Perhaps pretending to be deaf and dumb wouldn't solve the problem. Chu Tian saw that everyone was deep in thought, so he immediately continued, back then, the Great Zhou royal clan was slaughtered by the Heavenly Sword sect. Although you all participated, as long as you can help us rebuild the Great Zhou royal clan and help us deal with the Heavenly Sword sect that colluded with outsiders, we can forget about this. This is just your side of the story, why should we help you? That's right. The Great Zhou people will take care of the Great Zhou country's matters. You want to interfere as an outsider and support a new power in Great Zhou, don't you have evil intentions? Nangong Yun couldn't help saying, "You're simply refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." It's natural for everyone to have doubts. The Black Moon sect's Een spirit was like this in the past. Do you know why she changed her mind? Een spirit? Why would a little doll like her that hasn't even grown up for several years move? She was just bewitched by you. That's not necessarily true. Chu Tian didn't have time to waste with them. Nangong, bring them to Miracle City and have a look at Miracle City for a few days. If I return to the Heavenly Een Mountains after a few days and you still think that I don't have pure intentions of occupying the Great Zhou country, then just let them go. Chu Tian won't force anyone. Nangong Yun quickly said, "If I go back, who will go find Big Sister Bing and the others? I don't know where they are right now. Have Vivian come over, it'll be easier for her to search with her spatial abilities." "Alright, don't say any more, quickly go." "Alright." Nangong Yun had no choice but to bring them to the transport tower. Chu Tian found Endless Een to ask. From Endless Yin's description, Qin Bingyu and the others should have gone to a place called the Death Ice Field in the Great Zhou country. The Death Ice Field was a place rarely visited by people. It was high above sea level and had a cold climate, with little life. It was said that the Qin family's ancestral land was there. Yoda's prophecy should not be wrong. They hadn't returned for several days, perhaps they had encountered some trouble. But it didn't matter. Since they knew the general location, it shouldn't be hard to find them. Not long after Nangong Yun returned to Miracle City, Vivian was sent over to report. "Big brother Chu Tian, you're finally willing to bring me out to do things." Chu Tian looked at Vivian and said in a surprised voice, "Your cultivation seems to have increased." "That's right, I'm in the 5th true spirit layer." Vivian looked up with a bit of pride. "Even if we meet strong bad people now, I can help Big Brother beat them." "That's great." Chu Tian nodded in satisfaction. "There's no time to lose, let's go." Chapter 504. Several dozen forest experts were left in the Heavenly Een Mountain. Endless Een had to make arrangements to attack the Heavenly Sword Mountain as soon as possible because the Heavenly Sword Mountain was colluding with the Eagle Burial Kingdom. This time, if they didn't take care of the Heavenly Sword Sect as soon as possible, perhaps the Heavenly Sword Sect would ally with the Eagle Burial Kingdom. If this matter developed to this point, it would be a bad matter. In addition, the rebuilding of the Great Zhou dynasty's royal family would mean reshuffling and splitting of interests. Who would be willing to give up their own resources and territory? The best method was to use a justifiable reason to get rid of a major faction. That way, the additional territory and resources could be taken over, and the other factions could also benefit from it. This was a situation where everyone was happy. There was only so much that Chu Tian could do. The situation on Qin Bingyu's side was unclear, so she had no time to worry about it. She had to move out as soon as possible. When Vivian reached the rank 5 true spirit, his strength had increased by a large amount. Although the Great Zhou country was a bit larger than the Great Summer country, in front of Vivian's spatial ability, this bit of distance was nothing. After a few teleportations, the two arrived at the Death Ice Field. Wow, it's so beautiful here. This mountain peak stood on high ground, and the spiritual veins and resources on the ground were mainly of the ice element. Thus, it attracted a large amount of ice element, which caused this area to be surrounded by ice and snow for thousands of years. It was empty, silent, and cold. Looking from afar, the terrain was not flat, with undulating mountain ranges and snowy ridges. There was basically no vegetation covering it, and it was a unique and magnificent snowy scenery. Vivian couldn't help but shiver. Strange, this place seems to be too cold. It's actually faintly affecting me through my protective essence energy. That's right, the ice element is too dense. Chu Tian also felt this cold and he had to circulate his spirit energy to resist it. If my guesses aren't wrong, there is a rare ice vein under the Death Ice Field that gathers a very strong ice energy. This cold is not caused by normal temperatures, so it can directly invade a person's body. If one doesn't have a true spirit cultivation, perhaps their spirit energy would freeze in less than a day. There is no way to stay here for long, so it's called the Death Ice Field. Big Sister Bing Yu and Ian's spirit are here. Vivian said gloomily, the ice field is not small, and the communication signal does not cover this area. When will we find him? Have you forgotten? We have an expert tracker. A snow-white fox crawled out and sat on his shoulder, wagging its tail proudly. Apart from this fox, was there anyone else who could do such a thing? Vivian suddenly realized that she had forgotten about the little fox again. Little fellow, we have a lot of things to do, so don't waste time. Chu Tian patted the little fox's shoulder and said, the most important thing right now is to find them quickly. I'll reward you well when we get back. The little fox nodded in satisfaction. It closed its eyes and sensed for a while before pointing in a direction with its claws. Vivian immediately placed a snow-white hand on Chu Tian's shoulder, and the two of them directly jumped 100 miles. The death ice field covered a large area, and there were frequent snowstorms, death-cold currents, and the like. If one wanted to travel on foot, it would be very troublesome. With the ability to teleport, it would be much more convenient. The death icy field was big enough for ordinary people. However, it was too small for Vivian, who could travel hundreds of miles in an instant. Under the little fox's guidance, Vivian used space movement a few times and finally had some results. On the north side of the death ice field, there was an extremely large ice lake. The entire lake was covered in blue ice, like a smooth mirror on the ground. In the land of ice rain, there were blue energy flows surging. This was the location of the eye of the ice vein. The energy aura on the surface of the ice lake was even stronger, and even a true spirit cultivator couldn't resist it. That's the place we're looking for. Vivian found an ice castle in the center of the ice lake. It looked very old and waves of ice energy were being released from it. Look. Isn't that Yoda? There was a green dragon coiled around the ice castle. It was over 10 meters long and had a majestic aura, looking very spirited. Although most of its scales were covered in ice, there was still a strong pressure coming from its body. It couldn't be wrong. This was the green dragon that Yoda had transformed into. Vivian looked over it a few times. Prophet Yoda seems to be injured. Although the green dragon was majestic, its body had suffered many injuries, especially on its neck and abdomen. Large patches of scales had disappeared, and its flesh seemed to have just recovered. There were at least dozens of injuries all over its body. It was obvious that it had experienced a tough battle. Let's go. No. Chu Tian stopped Vivian, looking at Yoda's situation. They have clearly met a strong enemy. There's no need to rush out, let's look at the situation first. After saying this, Chu Tian released the divine servants from the sealed scrolls and hid nearby to observe the situation. After around a few hours, a group of people appeared on the ice field. There were over 20 of them, and they were all spirit beasts. There were a few humans at the front, and from their clothes, they should be high-level members of the Heavenly Sword sect. Vivian was instantly excited. Big Brother was right, they're already here. Chu Tian made a shushing gesture. Let's keep watching. Old thing, do you really have to resist to the end? A gray-haired sword cultivator wearing a crown stared coldly at the green dragon. 4 or 5 swords circled around him at high speed. He was not angry, but his aura was imposing. You don't have much power left. Do you really want to throw your life away for this? The green dragon gave a low roar as flames appeared in its throat. Its wings created a large amount of wind and snow, releasing a sharp aura that swept in all directions. Seeking death. The sword cultivator flew into the air and his hands formed sword fingers, small phaseless sword finger. The scales on the green dragon's neck exploded once again as large amounts of blood and flesh sprayed out. The green dragon ignored this and quickly flapped its wings to charge forward. The 20-30 spirit beast experts all moved. They first used a barrier to protect the sword cultivator and then used various slowing, numbing, and all kinds of strange witchcraft techniques on the green dragon. Even if the green dragon's strength was shocking, it was still very strenuous for it to fight against all of them. Chu Tian tightly knit his brows when he saw this. Small phaseless sword. It didn't need to be said to know that it was most likely the Heavenly Sword Sect's sect master Ling Wanjian. From the strength Ling Wanjian displayed, this person's cultivation had reached the peak 5th true spirit layer, and his small phaseless sword was a level higher than Ling Ying's. The spirit beast experts weren't simple either. There were 4 in the 6th true spirit layer among the 20 people. Although the dragon's defense was very strong and it was hard for these people to break through, it was more than enough to restrain Yoda. Ling Wanjian's cultivation was not high, but the small phaseless sword was a very strong attack technique. Even if he was in the peak 5th true spirit layer, it was enough for him to pierce through the dragon's scales. Yoda had spent several days defending, so it was clear that it was very strenuous for him now. Yoda wasn't a real green dragon. His dragon form was merely an illusion created by a druid's secret technique. Thus, he had to expend a lot of energy to maintain his dragon form at all times. As the battle dragged on, he naturally began to feel powerless. Vivian was very anxious. Big brother Chu Tian, let's make a move. Calm down first. Chu Tian said in a low voice, the small phaseless sword is very dangerous. Ling Wanjian's sword art has reached the large success realm, so it will be dangerous if we act rashly. Make your preparations first. As long as the time is right, we'll immediately attack. All right. The green dragon faced Ling Wanjian's increasingly fierce attacks and could no longer take the initiative, so the battle became more and more disadvantageous. The wounds on his body quickly increased, and the green dragon was a dragon of life, so its recovery was very strong, but it couldn't keep up with this kind of damage. Of course. Ling Wanjian had consumed a lot of energy, but he could feel his advantage becoming more and more clear. He became more and more confident, so he did not hold back at all and wildly attacked with all his strength. I want to see how long you can resist. Small phaseless sword rain. Ling Wanjian wildly released his spirit energy and his 10 fingers released their power together. This was a wave of sword finger attacks that consumed most of Ling Wanjian's strength. It made the green dragon give a pitiful cry as its body was covered in blood and it was sent flying. All right. Now's the time. Vivian sent the 18 divine servants to Ling Wanjian. Suddenly, 18 figures appeared beside Ling Wanjian. They attacked Ling Wanjian at an extremely fast speed. Damn, there's an ambush. Ling Wanjian used his spirit energy to send several divine servants flying with a single sword finger. The spirit beast experts gave up on restraining the green dragon and flew into the air to block the remaining divine servants. When their attention was attracted, Vivian released her spatial energy again. Chu Tian appeared behind Ling Wanjian and stabbed out with all his strength. Ling Wanjian quickly sent out a sword chi in the air. Dang! It made Chu Tian feel the netherworld sword tremble. This fierce strength almost sent the netherworld sword flying. You want to sneak attack me with this bit of strength? Ling Wanjian's face turned fierce as he roared, let's die together. Ling Wanjian condensed a sword chi, and when he was about to cut Chu Tian in half, he felt another spatial fluctuation appear beside him. There was actually someone else. Ling Wanjian tried to change the direction of the sword chi, but as soon as he moved, there was a spatial energy that fell on his body. It was like a sharp blade was slicing him from head to toe. Vivian's attack, spatial cut. The timing of this attack was perfect. After Ling Wanjian released a large move, he pushed back the divine servants and then pushed back Chu Tian. He could no longer use the small phaseless sword, and Vivian's spatial attack had already been used before the teleportation array arrived. Vivian's teleportation array covered the spatial energy fluctuations, so when Ling Wanjian tried to push back Vivian, he didn't know that the killing blow had already arrived. From head to toe, Ling Wanjian was directly cut in half. This peak expert of the Great Zhou dynasty had actually died here for no reason. Chu Tian said in a somewhat regretful voice, "You were too fast, you could have cut him in half and kept his life. It's such a pity that we couldn't obtain the small phaseless sword." Chu Tian was very interested in the Heavenly Sword sect's small phaseless sword. The sect master and vice sect master had all died, so it would be hard for him to obtain the sect's secret art. You're finally here. Yoda let out a long sigh of relief. He had already reached his limit. Chapter 505. After Ling Wanjian was taken care of, the other eagle burial experts weren't a problem. With the 18 divine servants and Vivian working together, they were quickly taken care of. Yoda, are you alright? Chu Tian put away his sword and walked over. Yoda had returned to his small and thin appearance. The green dragon's injuries didn't directly affect his body, but it still injured Yoda's vitality. However, with Chu Tian's methods and Miracle City's abilities, this bit of injury didn't count for anything. What about the others? The people we brought from Miracle City have all died. Yoda's expression was very serious. Yin's spirit is currently heavily injured and Chen Bingyu is in the Ice Palace. The situation isn't very good. What happened? I'll go take a look. Yin's spirit was lying in the Ice Palace. She had been pierced in the chest by Ling Wanjian in a single move, and although her cultivation wasn't weak, she didn't have any battle strength left. Chu Tian saw her lying on the ice platform. Although she was weak, she wouldn't die, so he casually teased her. I say, little sister Zong, you are the leader of one of the 6 spiritual mountains, how could you not take a single blow? Pei, the death servant wasn't completely refined, otherwise how could this one be defeated so easily? Yin's spirit's pale face became even paler as she sat on the platform without moving, just like an ice doll. This sect master almost lost her life and you're still taunting me. Calm down, calm down. I'll remember your merit this time. Chu Tian could only reveal an embarrassed smile. Why isn't Big Sister Bing here? How is she now? Chen Bingyu isn't here, come with me. Yin's spirit and Yoda led Chu Tian and Vivian into the ancient Ice Palace ruins. The ruins were much larger than they imagined, with ancient murals sealed in ice and relics scattered in the palace, as well as tall ice sculptures. These were all signs of the ancient people's lives. Chu Tian looked around as he walked. This is the Chen family's ancestral land? Why would their home be in this damn place? The Great Zhou legend might not be completely correct. Yin's spirit said as she walked, the Ice Palace is a very ancient inheritance, its history and background are not inferior to the 6 spiritual mountains, only it has not been known to the world for many years. However, it was different from the 6 great spiritual mountains. The Ice Palace's inheritance had extremely high requirements for the bloodline of the inheritors. Only a group of people with special bloodlines could accept it. As time passed, they would form a family. Because of the sudden change in the environment or some other disaster, a large number of people in the Ice Palace died, and a small group left the ice field, forming the Shen family. So that's how it is. This place was not only the ancestral land of the great Zhou Shen family, but also a very important place of inheritance. The Shen family, from an inconspicuous family, only used a few decades to quickly grow, and finally became a royal family of the great Zhou dynasty that even the 6 great powers feared. One of the most important reasons was because of their deep heritage. Once the Shen family's direct descendants or important targets of cultivation reached adulthood, they would all be sent to the Ice Palace to activate their bloodline and cultivate the supreme techniques recorded in the Ice Palace. That was why the great Zhou royal family could obtain great development in a short period of time. City Lord, we're here. Yoda walked to the center of the Ice Palace. This is the core of the Ice Palace and the entire ice field. Because the energy is too strong, it is very dangerous, so please be prepared. Chu Tian looked up and found that there was a giant palace door in front of him. The incomparably large palace door was made of some kind of ice crystal, with 36 ice dragons coiled around it. There were also 2 large and dignified ice statues standing on the left and right, like dignified door gods. Just from the aura alone, one could feel a strong sense of intimidation. Open it. With Chu Tian's order, Yoda opened the ice-sealed door and a visible stream of energy came out. Although he was already prepared, it was still like millions of ice needles piercing his body. The blood in his body instantly turned cold and even his spirit energy stopped flowing. Such strong energy. Even if it was a true spirit cultivator, if they weren't prepared, they would still be injured by this energy. At this time, Chu Tian's eyes turned white and spatial energy covered his body. This cold stream was very strong, but it wasn't enough to break through the spatial barrier of the void escaping. Rather than forcefully resisting this energy, it was better to use the void escaping to avoid it, saving more energy this way. Vivian walked in first and immediately cried out in surprise, "My God, what kind of place is this?" This main hall was a giant ice cave with a thick layer of ice that was over 100 meters deep. It was a light blue color and the deeper one went, the thicker the color, giving off a very clear feeling. This was the rare 10,000-year-old profound ice crystal. It was as hard as a level 3 rare metal. It also contained a very strong ice-attributed energy, so it could be used to make excellent quality equipment. The deeper one went, the higher the quality of the profound ice crystal, so it was definitely an unimaginable treasure. Of course, the profound ice crystal was precious, but what attracted people's attention was not these things. There was a whirlpool of energy visible to the naked eye in this 100-meter deep ice cave. The blue and white energy was moving around like a liquid. Ice Spirit Frozen Spring. City Lord is wise, this is the Ice Spirit Frozen Spring. Yoda said with a nod, this spring is a natural spiritual object. The Qin family's descendants can use this spring to stimulate their bloodline power. Qin Bingyu can quickly increase her cultivation base. She actually chose to jump into the spring. What? Vivian was shocked. She directly jumped in. Although it was called a spring, it couldn't be considered spring water. The essence of the ice spirit frozen spring was a condensed form of energy, and since it was energy, it was very dangerous. Even if a spirit transformation cultivator fell into the ice spirit frozen spring, their chances of survival would not be higher than a mouse falling into the Rhone River. How long has she been in there? It's already been 3 days and 3 nights. Chu Tian said to Vivian, your cultivation base is higher than mine. Can you use your spatial energy to cut open space and take her out? The energy in here is too strong. Vivian closed her eyes to sense it, but she helplessly shook her head. My current cultivation base can't resist this kind of interference, so I can't control space. What should we do? Everyone fell into deep thought. This was the core of the death ice field. The energy here was not something normal people could imagine. Even with Qin Bingyu's special ice-attributed bloodline, it would be hard for her to stay here for this long. Chu Tian walked in front of the ice cave. Since it's like this, there's no other way. I'll personally go in. You can't, City Lord. Qin Bingyu has the protection of her bloodline, but Sir City Lord doesn't have any innate talent. With your current cultivation base, I'm afraid your soul will be frozen and you won't be able to live. There's no need to worry. Chu Tian shook his head and said, with the little fox's help, I at least have the ability to escape. Yoda wanted to try and persuade him again. Chu Tian didn't even listen as he jumped in. As he continued to fall, Chu Tian could clearly feel that the cold aura of death was becoming stronger and stronger. It had already broken through the void escaping barrier. Then, there was no sound at all. Chu Tian fell into the ice spirit cold spring and there wasn't much resistance. After a bit of a buffer, countless terrifying cold streams began to cut Chu Tian's body like ice-cold knives. With this kind of energy, even if he used the starlight immortal body, he wouldn't be able to last long. Not to mention that Chu Tian's cultivation base wasn't high. Fox. The little fox used its ability and actually created a small barrier, causing the surrounding energy to change directions and charge at the little fox. Chu Tian was surrounded by starlight as he used his spirit energy to move forward. He was like a diver slowly moving underwater. Although he had the little fox's help, it still consumed a lot of energy. Chu Tian calculated that he only had 3 minutes at most. Because his divine sense couldn't spread out, it was unknown how long it would take if he used normal methods. But the little fox gave him a prompt. Chu Tian followed the little fox's direction and saw that at the bottom of the ice spirit cold spring, there was a ball of dazzling white light. This is a ball of flame. Chu Tian's expression slightly changed. This was definitely not a normal flame, rather it was a spiritual flame born from a spiritual vein after tens of thousands of years. This thing was definitely a heaven-defying treasure. The source of the entire ice spirit cold spring was this ball of flame. Found it. Chen Bingyu floated in front of the flame. It was like she was attracted by a magnet as the flame slowly entered her body. Chen Bingyu was clearly not dead, but she couldn't move at all. Damn, it's taking over my body. Chu Tian found that the spiritual flame contained a strong innate will. It was trying to take over Chen Bingyu's body and obtain its own flesh and blood body. If it succeeded in taking over her body, Chen Bingyu's consciousness would completely disappear. Then there was no difference between her being dead. Chu Tian circulated his elemental energy and was about to swim over, but at this moment, a thick killing intent was suddenly emitted from within the white lotus-like throbbing ice flame. It caused the surrounding ice spirit frozen spring to surge, and several white figures shuttled back and forth. When Chu Tian observed with rapt attention, his heart suddenly sank. Ice flood dragons. Several ice flood dragons. These were several ice flood dragons that were born from the ice spirit cold spring. The entire ice spirit cold spring was born from the mysterious flame, and these ice flood dragons were born from the ice spirit cold spring, so they were controlled by the flame's will. Each ice flood dragon had a strong strength. It was not something that Chu Tian could fight against. Not to mention that Chu Tian couldn't use his strength in the depths of the ice spirit cold spring, but these ice flood dragons were like fish in water. How could he fight in this kind of environment? There was no time to think. The ice flood dragons surrounded Chu Tian at the same time, and one of them charged at him. Chapter 506. The ice spirit frozen spring's innate life forms were not normal life forms. The ice flood dragons did not have a physical body, so they could fuse with the ice spirit frozen spring. Not to mention the fact that Chu Tian did not have the strength to fight them. Even if he did, he would not be able to kill them in this kind of environment. The little fox saw that the situation was dire and did not need to be reminded. Its four limbs moved forward and it left Chu Tian's body. It wildly absorbed the surrounding energy while charging at an ice flood dragon. Its mouth was filled with sharp teeth as it bit down on the ice flood dragon's neck. The ice flood dragon's entire body was as clear as crystal, just like a natural work of art. However, there was a glowing energy flowing through its body. This energy was the essence of the ice flood dragon, and the little fox had directly sucked it in with a single bite. The ice flood dragon's body was covered in large amounts of cracks. With a ping sound, the ice flood dragon exploded. The little fox's method of dealing with this kind of life form was very effective. But the ice flood dragon's fragments were wrapped up by the ice spirit frozen spring's energy and then reformed. It was just like what Chu Tian had thought. In this kind of environment, these ice flood dragons could not be killed. Fox, tie down these large snakes. Chu Tian felt that the resistance was getting stronger and stronger. A bone-chilling cold seemed to have penetrated his body and entered his mind, causing his reactions to slow down, and he felt drowsy. This was very bad. The little fox was distracted dealing with the ice flood dragons, and the energy around Chu Tian increased. This made it harder for Chu Tian to move forward, and he couldn't even last 30 seconds. There was only one method left. Cover me. Chu Tian pulled out the netherworld sword, and the netherworld ghost flame appeared. He used all his strength to jump forward and held the sword hilt with both hands as he charged straight at the white ice flames. The ice flood dragons seemed to have noticed Chu Tian's plan, and two of them turned around to deal with Chu Tian. The little fox noticed one of the ice flood dragons, but it was too late to stop the other one. Rustle. The energy quickly flew over, and Chu Tian suddenly felt a strong sense of danger cover his body. Almost like a conditional radiation, Chu Tian released the power of his main source spirit, and his eyes turned the color of space. Spatial energy surrounded his body. The energy in the ice spirit frozen spring was very strong. Chu Tian's cultivation couldn't even compare to Vivian's. Now that he was in the ice spirit frozen spring, he didn't even have the ability to determine his location. He could only close his eyes and teleport. This kind of behavior was like closing one's eyes and charging into a sea of fire. It was definitely an extremely dangerous behavior. He couldn't care less now. Chu Tian knew very well in his heart that with his ability, it was basically impossible for him to block an attack from the Ice Flood Dragon. Although the risk of blindly teleporting was great, it was still better than waiting for death, right? The cold current released by the Ice Flood Dragon was already close and Chu Tian could clearly feel his blood freeze. Even the Starlight immortal body could not stop this freezing energy. When Chu Tian was about to be turned into an ice sculpture, the surrounding energy suddenly repelled him. Chu Tian disappeared from his original position. He missed. The Ice Flood Dragon did not have the ability to think, but it was still a bit stunned. When it was about to find its target, the little white fox had already charged over and bit down on the Ice Flood Dragon's neck. Like it was drinking a drink, it instantly sucked out all the essence in the Ice Flood Dragon's body. The ice sculpture trembled a few times before shattering into countless pieces. Chu Tian had successfully teleported away, dodging most of the energy, but he had still received a large amount of damage. Now he could not resist the corrosion of the ice spirit spring, perhaps he would be frozen in this damn place in just a few seconds. It was still not too late to leave now. Ice spirit flame. Chu Tian's eyes opened wide and he was surprised to find that the white flame was just a few feet away, completely parallel to Qin Bingyu's body. The white ball of flame continued to change shape and separate. Large amounts of starry flames were entering Qin Bingyu's 7 orifices. This is bad. At least half of this flame had entered Qin Bingyu's body. This meant that the possession was already half done. The ice spirit flame could condense an innate will, so it was not inferior to the netherworld ghost flame. Not to mention the fact that it could possess someone else's body, this meant that the ice spirit flame's innate will already had complex thoughts and desires, which far surpassed the netherworld flame. Chu Tian did not think that the netherworld sword could swallow the ice spirit flame. If he rashly attacked, there would be the danger of being swallowed. The current situation was special. The ice spirit flame's possession was half done, so it was the easiest time to deal with it. Although the ice spirit flame's possession was very slow, with Chu Tian's current body condition, if he let go of this chance, he would not have the ability to try it again. Netherworld, I'll be depending on you this time. Chu Tian raised his sword and the tip of the sword stabbed into the ice spirit flame. The moment the two touched, there was a very strong will fluctuation that filled the entire ice palace. It was a wild rage. This was like a high and mighty queen being kissed by a beggar on the side of the road. The ice spirit flame was the will of the Eye of Ice that had evolved for tens of thousands of years, finally becoming a high-level existence that surpassed normal life forms. Now that a low-level human was holding a low-level innate spiritual flame, the sword actually released a strong and wild thought of swallowing it. How could it not be angry? This low-level spiritual flame was not something the ice spirit flame placed in its eyes at all. The ice spirit flame had not only been nurtured for tens of thousands of years, its core was the will of the Eye of Ice. Whether it was energy or divine sense, how could this low-level innate spiritual flame compare to it? Not to mention that the ice spirit frozen spring was its home ground, wanting to extinguish it wasn't any harder than blowing out a candle. The netherworld flame did not seem to understand. All of its will and all of its power was released through the sword blade. The blue and white netherworld flame exploded and it was like a giant embracing the white sun. This was simply seeking death. Even if the ice spirit flame could only use a small part of its power to resist, this small part was enough to resist because the difference in their levels was too large. Not to mention the netherworld flame did not have any home ground advantage here. The cold ice spread across the sword, sealing it in place. The ice spirit flame cut off the connection between the netherworld ghost flame and the netherworld sword. This was equal to cutting off the netherworld ghost flame's path of retreat. With the two flames fighting, only one could survive. From the current situation, the ice spirit flame had an overwhelming advantage. In just a few rounds, the netherworld flame had been weakened by half. Damn, did I underestimate this fellow? The netherworld flame was slowly pushed back, entering the netherworld sword to recover. In the end, no matter how the netherworld sword tried to enter, it was blocked by the layer of ice on the netherworld sword. Hong! The ice spirit flame shot out a beam of energy at the netherworld sword. With a kacha sound, it was like breaking ice. The treasure sword broke into 4-5 pieces and fell into the bottomless cold pond. This sword that had followed Chu Tian for so many years had actually been destroyed here. The sword being destroyed was a small matter, but the worst thing was that the netherworld flame's foundation had been destroyed. The weapon's spirit had lost its support and died. Fuck. Father will fight it out with you. The netherworld flame condensed on the surface of his body. This was a secret technique similar to the flame demon transformation, turning him into a flaming demon. Chu Tian had temporarily replaced the netherworld sword as the weapon spirit and flame. Like this, there was still a chance of fighting to the death. The ice spirit flame released a taunting will, taking the initiative to attack. The ice spirit flame charged forward and wrapped around Chu Tian. It tried to connect the netherworld flame's power to Chu Tian and swallow him. This was a very easy matter for it. After all, the difference in strength between the two sides was too large and it didn't have any geographical advantage. But when the ice spirit flame covered Chu Tian's body, that dazzling white flame trembled and unexpectedly dimmed. The ice spirit flames began to panic because it had never encountered this kind of thing before. It was not wrapped around a flame or a living being, but rather a black hole that could swallow everything. The ice spirit flame wanted to escape, but it was shocked to find that it had already been sucked in by the black hole. Chu Tian's hands formed a seal and his body was surrounded by the aura of his main source spirit. His eyes had already turned black, which was not a normal eye color. It was a deep, empty eye that was filled with attraction like a black hole. Chu Tian wildly swallowed the ice spirit flame, weakening its power. The netherworld flame seized this chance to counterattack. Hong! The ice spirit flame was ignited. It struggled with all its might, but it was useless. The ice spirit flame was too careless. In this weak state, it actually attacked Chu Tian who it didn't know, so it gave Chu Tian a chance to turn the situation around. Chu Tian wildly swallowed it without caring about the price. From spirit to strength, from will to energy, he didn't let a single thing go. The ice spirit flame's struggle became weaker and weaker. The netherworld flame chased after it, finally completely igniting the ice spirit flame. The flame seeped out of Chu Tian's body and spread in all directions. The netherworld flame's essence was to burn energy. The strong energy of the ice spirit frozen spring turned into a large pool of fuel. The flames quickly spread. Several ice flood dragons struggled to escape, but they were swallowed by the flames. When the little fox saw this, it quickly teleported away a few times. Yoda and the others anxiously waited. Vivian suddenly pointed and shouted, "Look, there's light inside." From the beginning to the end of her voice, in just a short breath's time, that little bit of light had already filled the entire ice cave, causing the surrounding ice crystals that were harder than metal to crack. A terrifying energy was released from the center of the ice palace and the entire ice field began to violently tremble. Several hundred miles were affected as all kinds of avalanches appeared at the same time. In a very short period of time, the frozen lake was covered in cracks, and every crack was spewing out blue and white flames. This spectacular scene was simply like a scene from the end of the world. Yoda and the others were all stunned. The entire ice lake was being destroyed by the flames from the fountain. No one could explain what was happening with this shocking scene. After around 10 minutes, the flames gradually extinguished. The entire ice lake was in a mess, but the depths of the ice were still burning. Vivian anxiously shouted, "Something must have happened, quickly save Big Brother Chu Tian." Chapter 507. Chu Tian vaguely remembered that after the netherworld ghost flame swallowed the ice spirit flame, it immediately ignited the ice vein with the eye of the ice as the center. Large amounts of energy surged out and instantly covered the world, completely submerging Chu Tian. Damn, father's luck isn't bad, I actually didn't die. Chu Tian woke up to find that his limbs were fine and he was lying in a cave in the heavenly Yin Mountains. He thought it was a small matter, but he never thought that he would be in such a dangerous situation. Now that he carefully thought about it, Chu Tian broke out in a cold sweat from the risk he took. Something's wrong. Chu Tian recovered his consciousness and found that there were many things that were wrong. The first thing he found was that the entire world was different from before. Everything in the world was clearer, the elements collided with each other, the flow of energy and matter in the air, every small change could not escape Chu Tian's eyes. Chu Tian could even see the shape of every speck of dust that floated past him, and he could even feel the hairs on the ants in the corner. His divine sense was several times stronger than before. That's right. Chu Tian remembered that in the most dangerous moment, he had activated the swallowing power of his main source spirit and began a life and death battle with the ice spring divine sense, finally successfully defeating the mysterious ice spirit flame. The netherworld flame had defeated the strong and refined the ice spirit flame. Not only did it give Chu Tian the essence, Chu Tian had also absorbed the divine sense that had been nurtured in the eye of the ice for over 100,000 years. This was an incomparably large amount of wealth. Chu Tian's divine sense had a large breakthrough, and now he had completely surpassed the mind's lamp realm, reaching the higher vision domain realm. Although divine sense cultivation and cultivation base weren't completely unrelated, there was a large independent relationship between them. Divine sense was the power to dig out a living being's soul and spiritual source. Spirit energy was the power to absorb the spiritual energy of the world. The former was to dig out one's roots, while the latter was to borrow objects to mend the heavens. Who was stronger and who was weaker could not be compared one-sidedly. However, before one's divine sense reached a sufficient level of strength, the range of its usage was relatively limited. In comparison, strengthening one's origin power and directly raising one's cultivation could increase one's strength and extend one's lifespan, so the effect was more obvious. The difficulty of cultivating divine sense was often very high. In addition to the need for opportunities and fortuitous encounters, it also required one's own understanding and the relevant qualities. It was so strenuous and unrewarding that it led to the specialization. Although it had a high value in the production of divine sense, as well as in assisting in cultivation and combat, it was still not as practical as direct strength. A truly qualified cultivator could not simply pursue power. Chu Tian knew that strength alone could not surpass the limits of the realm. This was also the reason why Chu Tian focused on the development of his divine sense. However, if he wanted to improve his divine sense, he not only needed to have the relevant abilities, but he also needed to have similar fortuitous encounters. Fortuitous encounters could only be encountered but not sought. Just this reward alone made the risk worth it. Chu Tian's impression was that he was heavily injured and he would need to rest for at least half a month if he didn't die. Now there were no traces of injuries on his body and his spirit energy had increased by a large amount. His cultivation had increased by 2 stages, going from the peak 2nd true spirit layer to the peak 3rd true spirit layer. If it wasn't for the fact that there was a bottleneck between the peak 3rd true spirit layer and the 4th true spirit layer, he would have already reached the 4th true spirit layer with the large amount of energy gathered in his body. What was going on here? Why did it increase so quickly? This was most likely the increase brought by the netherworld flame refining the ice spiritual flame. The biggest regret was that the sword was destroyed in the fight and now it had fallen into the depths of the ice hole. Without the netherworld sword's help, his battle strength would be greatly reduced. Wait a minute. Without the sword, what about the flame? The value of a sword wasn't high, the most precious thing was the netherworld ghost flame. Chu Tian carefully inspected his body and in the end, Chu Tian was very surprised to find that in his meridians and dantian, the flame and spirit energy were perfectly combined. This flame aura was very familiar, it was the netherworld flame attached to the netherworld sword. The netherworld flame had swallowed half of the ice spiritual flame and its quality had increased. Now it had already evolved several levels, it couldn't be compared to before. Hong! An explosion came from Chu Tian's right hand as blue and white flames appeared, nimbly moving through his fingers. Although it had swallowed the ice spiritual flame, the netherworld flame was still dominant. The two did not merge together, rather one swallowed the other. The loser would become nutrients for the winner. There was no fire source spirit or ice source spirit. Why could he directly merge the flame into his spirit energy? This was a very strange and mysterious matter, but he didn't feel any discomfort. On the contrary, his strength would increase by a large amount. Netherworld, how is your current situation? I swallowed the ice spiritual flame and obtained an unprecedented evolution, so I can separate from the netherworld sword and fuse with Master's spirit energy, becoming a part of Master's strength. Good. Very good. Even if Chu Tian didn't use his source spirit, his spirit energy was already very strong. The most important thing was that netherworld had undergone a large amount of evolution, becoming an artificial intelligence. His relationship with Chu Tian was a bit like a master and servant contract. This was different from the relationship between the little fox and Chu Tian. Chu Tian was the little fox's master. If the little fox died, Chu Tian wouldn't die. Once Chu Tian died, the little fox would have a hard time living. However, the little fox's personality was a bit strong. The contract only restricted the little fox's life, but it didn't restrict the little fox's thoughts. Netherworld was a spiritual life, completely under Chu Tian's control. Therefore, Netherworld's personality was very strong. He didn't have a personality like the little fox, but he was an absolutely loyal and reliable talisman. Netherworld was already a top-level artificial intelligence. If he could create a super source energy matrix to strengthen it, wouldn't Chu Tian have a super smart brain implanted in him? This would definitely have a large benefit and convenience. Chu Tian decided to give it a try when he returned. Big brother Chu Tian, you're finally awake. Vivian felt movement and immediately charged in. You really worried us to death. How long was I unconscious for? What happened in between? Big brother, you still don't know? Vivian's face was filled with worship as she spoke in an exaggerated tone. You burned the entire ice field spirit vein and large amounts of spiritual energy was released from the fire, giving us quite a bit of benefits. Even my cultivation base has increased by quite a bit and Yin spirit is almost in the 5th true spirit layer. The death ice field spirit vein has been burning all this time, letting the spiritual energy released surpass the 6 great spiritual mountains. The ice field will soon become a new paradise not inferior to the 6 great spiritual mountains. This completely surpassed Chu Tian's expectations. Chu Tian didn't know how this happened, but it wasn't important. He quickly asked, how is Big Sister Bing? Big Sister Bing has already woken up, but she can't move right now. Come, let's go take a look. Chen Bingyu was sitting in the cave in seclusion. Her silver-white hair flowed down like a waterfall, dancing without any wind. Her mature body was actually covered in white flames, but what was strange was that these flames did not harm her at all. This was a blessing in disguise for Chen Bingyu, not any less than Chu Tian. The ice spirit flame's possession was interrupted halfway. Half of the ice spirit flame was refined by Chu Tian and the other half entered Chen Bingyu's body. The ice eyes will even took the initiative to change it, allowing the powerful energy to adapt to Chen Bingyu's body. Following that, the ice spirit flame was taken care of by Chu Tian and this energy was taken by Chen Bingyu for free. The ice spirit fire's target of possession was not just anyone. This had to be established on the premise that they had the relevant bloodline. Chu Tian and Chen Bingyu each took half of the ice spirit flame. Chu Tian refined it from the netherworld flame and the netherworld flame refined the ice spirit flame, absorbing its essence to evolve. Chen Bingyu directly turned the ice spirit flame into her own energy. The two sounded similar, but there was an essential difference. In short, Chen Bingyu's increase this time was very large. Her cultivation was now in the 5th or 6th true spirit layer, so there was still room for her to increase. Moreover, Chen Bingyu had merged with the ice and fire, so her battle strength would be even stronger than before. Sorry. Chen Bingyu saw that Chu Tian had come to visit and that nothing had happened to this fellow, so Chen Bingyu was a bit relieved. The consciousness in the ice spring was too strong. I wasn't prepared and was bewitched for a moment, so I did this kind of dangerous thing. I almost dragged you down with me. Don't say that, I'm very good right now. Chu Tian didn't suffer any losses and gave a few laughs in an uncaring manner. You just need to properly rest here. We'll stabilize the situation and you can smoothly become the great Zhou queen. Chen Bingyu shook her head with a bitter smile. What queen? She wasn't interested. If Chu Tian wanted to control the great Zhou country, he needed a direct power. Chen Bingyu had already obtained the strongest inheritance of the great Zhou royal family's ruins, so her future was limitless. As long as she spread this news, it was unknown how many people would come to join her. The great Zhou queen's position, Chen Bingyu couldn't run away. Chu Tian was prepared to build the imperial city near the ice field. With the large amount of spiritual energy in the ice field, it wouldn't be a small power. The great Zhou royal family had the support of miracle commerce, so their influence would be even larger than the 6 spiritual mountains. This way, they would be able to firmly grasp the great Zhou country. Boss, I'm back. Nangong Yun brought people back at this time. Good news, Yuan Jinan, Jin Kuei, and the others are convinced. They are now willing to cooperate with miracle commerce as long as it doesn't destroy their current benefits. Convinced? This was also within his expectations. Chu Tian nodded and said, now that the general trend cannot be stopped, we will unite the large sects and the small and medium-sized powers of the great Zhou country. In the name of protecting the country, we will launch a crusade against the Heavenly Sword Mountain. This time we must pull out this thorn and also kill the chicken to warn the monkeys, shocking all the great Zhou sects. All right. Nangong Yun was filled with confidence. The Heavenly Sword Mountain's leaders are all dead. It will be as easy as turning our hands to eliminate them. Chapter 508. In just a short half a month, the great Zhou country had a series of dramatic reversals. First, the Heavenly Sword sect gathered the other 4 sects to attack the Black Moon sect, but in just a few days, they were mysteriously defeated. The Heavenly Sword sect's sect master Ling Wanjian and vice sect master Ling Ying were both killed. The alliance formed by the 5 spiritual mountains collapsed and 300,000 people were captured by the Black Moon sect. When everyone was stunned, the Divine Machine Hall, Medicine King Valley, Void Spirit Cave, and Black Tortoise sect strangely announced that the Heavenly Sword sect was colluding with the Eagle Burial Kingdom to cause a civil war in the Great Zhou country, so they were joining forces with the Black Moon sect to attack the Heavenly Sword sect. This change was just too strange. Even if one's thoughts jumped, wouldn't they not be able to withstand this dramatic change? A few days ago, the sects that were locked in a fierce battle had actually formed an army in less than a week's time. Together, they used the banners of eradicating evil, protecting the great Zhou dynasty, and re-establishing the royal family, and so on. They incited a large number of forces, big and small, and threw the entire great Zhou dynasty into chaos. From there, they started a grand battle to encircle and annihilate Heavenly Sword Mountain. Was it easy to break the head of the 6 spiritual mountains, the Heavenly Sword Mountain? The Heavenly Sword sect was like a group of dragons without a leader. When the Black Moon sect led the 5 spiritual mountains to gather at the foot of the Heavenly Sword Mountain, the entire Heavenly Sword Mountain fell into chaos. The battle hadn't even begun and they were already in chaos. Yin's spirit came in front of Chu Tian. We can attack now. No rush, no rush. Chu Tian revealed a faint smile as he looked over the people of the 4 sections. Although he believed in the young Miss and Dolores's persuasion skills, the attitude of the sect masters had changed so quickly. This was something Chu Tian never expected. We have a 100% chance of victory in this battle. We don't need to pursue a quick victory, we need to pursue a complete victory. The city lord is right, the city lord is right. The sect masters of the large sects all nodded. The so-called a wise man submits to circumstances. After personally visiting Miracle City, they couldn't be stubborn even if they wanted to. Miracle City's technology, Miracle City's potential, and Miracle City's experts, especially the Elven and Treant experts, they were all filled with fear. Perhaps any one of them could sweep through the great Zhou sect masters. With Miracle City's strong background and technology, why would they covet the Great Zhou country? Just like Chu Tian said, the Great Zhou country was just a small part of Miracle City's territory. Miracle City did not need to completely control the Great Zhou country. These Great Zhou sects took advantage of Miracle City's early stages to join in. They would receive an unimaginably high reward in the future. Meng Yingying ran in front of Chu Tian to report the results of the negotiations. We have communicated with Heavenly Sword Mountain. A few stubborn old fools are stubbornly guarding the entrance and refusing to surrender. They even said that if we dared to take a step closer, they would activate the Myriad Sword Mountain formation and tear us into pieces. So arrogant. He had to be taught a lesson. Chu Tian said to Nangong Yun, who was standing beside him, "How are the weapons deployed?" Nangong Yun confidently replied, "A Heaven's Punishment airship is in place and there are 20 source energy cannons deployed. As long as boss gives the order, we will immediately attack. Since they refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then we'll let them have a taste of our might." Understood. This attack was not only led by the 5 great sects, there was also the support of Miracle Commerce's weapons. So what if the Heavenly Sword Mountain was made of iron? The airships had a wave of bombardment and the 20 source energy cannons had been firing for several hours, accompanied by powerful destructive missiles. Who would be able to withstand such an attack? The Heavenly Sword Mountain's protective array was famous for its powerful attacks. The 5 great sects hadn't even launched an attack and the Heavenly Sword Mountain's array had already been reduced by half. This did not just reduce the Heavenly Sword Mountain's defenses, it also dealt a large blow to their morale. The time has come. Full force attack. Miracle Commerce couldn't keep up their firepower. When the bombardment was about done, the 5 great sects finally launched their first wave of attacks. The Heavenly Sword Mountain's defenses were already full of holes, not to mention that there were many experts from the forest among the attacking troops. After several attacks, the Heavenly Sword Mountain's protective array was finally destroyed. The mountain gate has been broken. The Heavenly Sword Mountain has run out of luck. Immediately put down your weapons and surrender. We won't kill those who surrender. The Heavenly Sword Sect's elder and sect master have colluded with the Eagle Burial Kingdom, so they have this kind of ending. The Heavenly Sword Sect's disciples do not need to be buried with them. The people of the 5 great sects began to shout out in unison. No one wanted to cause a large slaughter and the Heavenly Sword Sect's normal disciples would not be involved in high-level matters. Not to mention the fact that the Heavenly Sword Sect's cultivators had high battle strength, they would be the backbone of the Eagle Burial Kingdom in the future. If they were consumed in a civil war, it would be too much of a pity. Don't listen to them. A senior sect elder shouted from a high place, "The Heavenly Sword Mountain has existed for tens of thousands of years and countless heroes have died, how could it be destroyed at this moment? If the mountain exists, the people will exist, if the mountain dies, the people will die. The time to protect the Heavenly Sword Sect has come, kill these villains that spread lies. You want to die and you want to drag everyone down with you? We'll talk after we kill you." Nangong Yun's hands turned into giant flame wings that soared into the sky, instantly creating a thick cloud of flames as she charged at the other side. The Heavenly Sword Sect elder was clearly not a normal person, sending out several dozen streams of sword chi that fell onto Nangong Yun like a waterfall. Although it scattered the flames on Nangong Yun's body, it couldn't harm Nangong Yun's starlight immortal body at all. Just a trivial triple awakened soul dares to be this arrogant. Go die. Nangong Yun did not make any fancy movements, just punching the other side along with his sword in the air, using a violent and clean method to shatter them into pieces. Who else is there? Nangong Yun killed one of the top elders of the Heavenly Sword Sect in a single move. Her figure was like an angry and proud fire phoenix that stood in the air. This kind of aura that looked down on all living beings and this wild and unstoppable strength made people not dare look at her for a while. But at this time, several cloaked figures came out of the crowd. The auras they released were not weaker than the senior elders and the one leading them even had a cultivation in the 6th true spirit layer. Nangong Yun lost in the end no matter how fierce she was, therefore she was forced back by the other side in a single move. Of course, with the Starlight immortal body and the Nirvana scripture, Nangong Yun's defense and recovery were impeccable, so she was not that easy to defeat. Yoda said from below when he saw this, "These should be people from the Eagle Burial Kingdom." Letting this old man reveal their true faces, the Heavenly Sword sect disciples' morale will fall and they will collapse on their own. Why bother Prophet Yoda to make a move for such a small character? Chu Tian sat in the middle of the crowd, watching the battle like he was watching a play. "I've comprehended a new move, let me give it a try." Yoda was a bit stunned. What was the new move? The other side had several people in the fifth true spirit layer. Even if Chu Tian's cultivation had increased, could he surpass that high of a difference in cultivation? Not to mention that this was not a one-on-one battle. Nangong Yun knew that she couldn't beat the other side, but with her fierce personality, even if she knew she couldn't beat them, she still wouldn't retreat. When Nangong Yun was prepared to launch an even stronger attack, something Nangong Yun never imagined happened. A wondrous force appeared. It seemed like it could ignore the bindings of space and time as it suddenly descended onto Nangong Yun. Nangong Yun's body trembled as blue and white flames surrounded her body. An incomparably strong power suddenly appeared on her body and Nangong Yun felt her strength increase, becoming at least 5 times stronger than before. This isn't this boss power? Why did it appear on my body? Chu Tian's voice sounded in her mind, "I've sent netherworld energy into your body, so your strength won't lose to any of them. Let's have a good fight." Ha, thank you boss. Nangong Yun couldn't understand what was happening, but what did it matter? She never understood what boss did. Nangong Yun could feel the power enveloping her body and she immediately let out a roar. Heaven burning fist. The netherworld flame and phoenix flame combined and a storm was released, instantly burning 2 Eagle Burial Kingdom experts. It's actually this strong. Nangong Yun was shocked herself. Nangong Yun was stunned for a moment. The Eagle Burial Kingdom expert's leader used a secret technique and slashed at Nangong Yun with his scimitar. Nangong Yun was sent flying several meters, but she wasn't injured at all. Why are you so stupid? Chu Tian's voice sounded in Nangong Yun's mind again, "I'll send you 2 more moves, quickly take care of them." Nangong Yun felt power descend onto her body once again. The Eagle Burial Kingdom expert wanted to chase after her and when he was about to approach this woman, large amounts of netherworld flame condensed on his body, instantly forming the image of a demon. Flame demon transformation. Wasn't this Chu Tian's unique secret technique? While everyone was in a daze, a sword chi appeared in Nangong Yun's right hand. She took a step forward and her body suddenly disappeared. Several dozen dazzling sword glows appeared, it was like an endless wave that tore through the void. Several cloaked people were instantly cut into pieces, the leading expert barely managed to block a few of them, but the netherworld flame sword art was too strong, not to mention Nangong Yun's explosive strength. Pang! His protective spirit energy was broken. Nangong Yun's sword chi stabbed into the other side's chest. How is this possible? The Eagle Burial Kingdom expert revealed a look of disbelief. He couldn't understand even at the moment of his death. Nangong Yun wasn't even at the heaven spirit realm, how could she release this kind of terrifying strength? The people around Chu Tian were all stunned. What was wrong with Nangong Yun today? Was she possessed by Chu Tian? Chu Tian sat in his chair without moving, but his golden eyes slowly returned to their original color. He closed his eyes and gently panted, with sweat already covering his temples. It would be strange if you could understand. This vision domain, divine sense was very rare, not to mention using his main source spirit to strengthen it. Chapter 509. The divine sense realm was split into many different levels. Hyperfocus was a high degree of control, the heart's eye had the ability to observe with divine sense, the heart's lamp already had the ability to interfere, and when one reached the vision domain realm, they would have the symbolic ability, body possession. Body possession was not completely controlling one's mind, it could also imbue one's divine sense with certain characteristics and abilities onto the target. Chu Tian had just used the Vision Domain Realm's ability, using his divine sense to imbue the Netherworld's power onto Nangong Yun. Because of this, Nangong Yun's strength increased and she also had a portion of Chu Tian's cultivation technique and abilities. This was the power of the Vision Domain Realm. In the warring kingdoms of the continent, it was easy to find spirit transformation cultivators, but it was hard to find a Vision Domain divine sense person. Even a warring kingdom might not have a single one. Therefore, even on the continent, it was a rare existence to have a divine sense cultivator in this realm. Reaching the Vision Domain Realm with a cultivation in the peak third true spirit layer, this could be considered a shocking feat. Heavenly Sword Sect's people, open your eyes and look. This is the consecrator your sect master found. When Nangong Yun revealed the true identity of the mysterious consecrated elder, the disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect were instantly dumbfounded. Their morale naturally plummeted. In the end, under the combined attack of the 5 great sects, the Heavenly Sword sect completely gave up resisting. The Heavenly Sword sect's people all threw down their swords and surrendered. The mountain gate had been completely captured and occupied. Nangong Yun followed Chu Tian's instructions and brought all the surrendered elders of the Heavenly Sword sect in front of Chu Tian. "Boss, I've brought them to you. Do you have any orders?" "Alright, it's been hard on you." Chu Tian looked over these people and did not waste words. "I want something from the Heavenly Sword sect. As long as you honestly give it to me, I promise I won't make it hard for you and will even guarantee that you won't have to worry about your cultivation in the future." The Heavenly Sword sect was already finished. What couldn't this fellow obtain if he wanted it? A Heavenly Sword sect elder quickly asked, "What does the city lord want?" The Heavenly Sword sect has a long history of sword cultivation. There are several dozen first-rate sword arts on the continent. We are willing to hand over all the cultivation techniques of the Heavenly Sword sect, as long as the city lord is willing to let us go. Chu Tian's voice changed. "I haven't finished speaking yet. Actually, these sword arts are nothing, I'm only interested in your Heavenly Sword sect's small phaseless sword." "What? Small phaseless sword?" This, the Heavenly Rapier sect elders looked at each other in dismay. Nangong Yun raised her eyebrows. "It is your honor that my boss is interested in you. Since the boss has spoken, why don't you take out that sword?" An elder said with a bitter smile, It's not that we don't want to take it out, but the small phaseless sword is an ultimate sword art created by the Heavenly Sword sect's founder in the Sword Tomb for 30 years. It is the Heavenly Sword sect's most important cultivation technique and only the sect master has the qualifications to use it. We don't even know where the sword art is hidden." "Bullshit!" Nangong Yun angrily said, "If you dare lie to us, I will make you die miserably. Spare us." The elders all begged for mercy. "We really don't know." Chu Tian knit his brows. It was rare to find an interesting cultivation technique. Were they going to miss it like this? "Boss, you don't need to worry." Nangong Yun said to Chu Tian, "This cultivation technique must be in the Heavenly Sword sect. I'll bring several thousand people to dig through the Heavenly Sword Mountain. I don't believe we can't find it." "There's no need to be so troublesome." Chu Tian said to the elders, "Where is the sword tomb created by your sect's founder? Bring me to see it." This, Nangong Yun picked him up. "I told you to hand over the cultivation technique and you're hesitating. Now I want you to take us to some broken tomb and you're being so hesitant. I think you fellows are just not cooperating, you're simply asking for a beating. How about I help you loosen your bones?" "No, it's a misunderstanding. The Sword Tomb isn't a secret place, but the Sword Tomb has already been searched. The small phaseless sword cultivation technique can't be hidden in that kind of place." "Is that so?" Nangong Yun looked at Chu Tian. "Then what do we do?" Chu Tian calmly stood up. "Since the Heavenly Sword sect's founder could comprehend the small phaseless sword in the Sword Tomb, why can't I? Bring me to the Sword Tomb to have a look." This brat really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. In the era of the Heavenly Sword sect's founder, the great Zhou country hadn't appeared yet. This founder was called the Phaseless Sword Saint. Actually, before he created the small phaseless sword, he was already a super expert that shook the continent. Even so, the Phaseless Sword Saint used an entire 30 years. How old was this young man? Did he have 30-50 years of meditation? Nangong Yun and the others didn't care. How could these trivial mountain kings compare to Chu Tian? Which miracle Chu Tian had created since his debut was inferior to a trivial sword art? Stop talking, quickly lead the way. The Heavenly Sword sect's elder had no choice but to open the sword tomb door. The Heavenly Sword Mountain's sword tomb was a remnant of the ancient era and was actually hidden in the belly of the Heavenly Sword Mountain. Its size was not inferior to an underground palace, and there were millions of swords inside, with each one being a rare treasure. This also showed how strong the ancient sword cultivator's inheritance was. At the very least, it wouldn't lose to the ancient sect that created the 10,000 corpse ancient tomb in the Yin Corpse Valley. Wow, there really are a lot of swords. Nangong Yun and Meng Yingying followed Chu Tian into the sword tomb. The sword tomb was very large, but the structure was not complicated. There were millions of swords inserted into the ground, forming an 8 trigrams array. It seemed like a powerful and ancient sword array, but because of the passage of time, most of the swords in the sword tomb had decayed, so it didn't have the aura of the past. Chu Tian walked across the bridge of the sword tomb. There were many long bridges like this in the sword tomb, with all kinds of swords inserted into the left and right. There was a dense forest of swords at the bottom of the bridge. The large ones were over 10 meters long and the small ones were only 1 or 2 feet long. There were all kinds of swords, it was simply an exhibition of swords. This is the Heavenly Sword sect's sword tomb. A Heavenly Sword sect disciple said in a trembling voice, almost all of our Heavenly Sword sect's cultivation techniques and treasures were excavated from the sword tomb. After so many years, the sword tomb has already been excavated, so it's hard to find anything valuable here. Nangong Yun looked at Chu Tian and said, "Boss, you wouldn't be thinking of closing up here, right?" Closing up? That would be strange. Chu Tian wouldn't do this kind of thing. Chu Tian had personally experienced the might of the small phaseless sword. He knew that this kind of sword art wasn't something the Heavenly Sword sect could create. Even if the founder was strong, he was still limited by the era and knowledge. Not to mention 30 years, even if he was given 100 years, he still wouldn't be able to create this kind of cultivation technique. You guys step aside a bit. Chu Tian closed his eyes and released his divine sense, instantly covering the entire sword tomb. Each sword was trembling and some of them let out a clear cry. All of these swords were soul-contracting weapons that could only be found by luck. Because they felt Chu Tian's strength, they took the initiative to acknowledge Chu Tian. As long as Chu Tian needed it, he could take away any one of these swords. However, Chu Tian wasn't looking for a weapon, so he wasn't interested in these swords at all. I got it. Chu Tian jumped into the air and jumped down from the sword bridge. His feet stepped on the densely packed sword hilts until he finally landed in the center area, right in front of a giant broken sword that was hung in chains. The others all chased after him, looking at Chu Tian with a look of surprise. Meng Yingying asked, "Is there something strange about this broken sword?" This was an incomparably huge broken sword, with countless iron chains shuttling through it. It stood upright in the center, and the body of the sword was already extremely rusted. This kind of broken sword was everywhere in the sword tomb, so this one shouldn't be too different. This is it. Chu Tian walked in front of the giant broken sword and placed his hand on it. When he poured his divine sense into it, the giant broken sword trembled a few times, but there was no reaction. That's not right. Meng Yingying had a strange expression as she said, "It's just a broken sword, you're most likely mistaken." Chu Tian wouldn't make a mistake. There had to be something else in this broken sword, but how was he supposed to activate it? Nangong Yun said, "Even if this sword really is different, it has been placed in the sword tomb for so many years. I'm afraid that countless Heavenly Sword sect disciples, elders, and even the sect master have observed it, but no one has been able to solve its secret. Just based on this point, it is not easy to solve. She was right. If it was easy to solve its secret, would it have been kept until today? Chu Tian pondered it for a bit and then suddenly released his source spirit. The jet-black demon god's sword flew into the air and a destructive sword chi instantly covered the giant broken sword. The broken sword trembled even more violently. Suddenly, a few pieces of rust fell off. Meng Yingying's eyes lit up as she said, "There's a reaction." The rust on the broken sword kept falling off and the thing hidden inside kept coming out. It was like a snow-white jade, as if it was made of congealed fat. The surface was covered in dense and profound characters. It really was like this. Actually, it wasn't hard to solve this secret, as long as one had a strong enough sword source spirit. There weren't many people in the history of the Heavenly Sword sect that had this kind of source spirit. Perhaps the founding ancestor, the Phaseless Sword Saint, was one of them. Meng Yingying came over to look. She had learned quite a few characters over the past year, but when she saw the characters in front of her, she felt dizzy. She couldn't recognize a single character. What kind of characters are these? I've never seen them before. This is a high-level character of the ancient heaven race, even I can only understand a small part of it. Chu Tian carefully looked at it and said, "This should be a sword art cultivation technique, it's most likely the phaseless sword." It seems like the Heavenly Sword sect's founding ancestor creating the small phaseless sword is pure nonsense. Nangong Yun snorted in disdain. He clearly plagiarized it, but he said it was his own creation, truly shameless. You can't say it like this, he spent 30 years deciphering these characters. This sword scripture's essence is a space-attributed sword scripture, but sword cultivators with space attributes are rare. Therefore, he simplified the sword scripture and used the original version as the foundation to create the so-called small phaseless sword. Actually, phaseless sword is much more powerful than a small phaseless sword. Wasn't the cultivation technique Chu Tian found the original? The characters are disappearing, quickly record it down and let the young miss decipher it. Meng Yingying quickly took out her cell phone to take a few pictures. She couldn't find the so-called small phaseless sword, but she found the complete version of the phaseless sword. Once this sword art was completed, a person's battle strength would reach an unimaginable level. Other than the phaseless sword's jade disc, Chu Tian also took out the Heavenly Sword sect's 10 high-level techniques, making a copy of them all. After all, the Heavenly Sword sect's sword arts were passed down from ancient times and had been refined by generations of geniuses, so there were still many good things to learn. Miracle commerce not only needed resources, these cultivation techniques and secret techniques were also very precious treasures. Chapter 5:10. The Great Zhou country was long and narrow, looking like a snake. From north to south, it was several tens of thousands of miles, and in the middle section, there was a piece of land that protruded to the west. One of the most prosperous cities in the Great Zhou country, Cloud City, was located in this area. Cloud City had over 8 million people and its location was very special, being located in a four-corner area. Cloud City was connected to the Warhound Plains to the east, the Great Summer Country to the south, and the northern countries to the north, so it was a place where merchants and adventurers gathered. This was the area that the Void Spirit Cave, the Medicine King Valley, and the Black Moon sect managed together, but it had now been ceded to become the Great Zhou royal family's eastern capital. The Great Zhou country's 5 spiritual mountains supported the Great Zhou Princess Chen Bingyu's kingship, becoming the new ruler of the Great Zhou country. She was mainly in charge of the secular world's economy as well as managing the various factions. The imperial city was still under construction and it would take half a year to complete. Once the imperial city was completed, the Thousand East city would be in charge of the imperial city. The queen is ascending the throne. The queen is ascending the throne. Cloud City was already filled with people. Everyone ran out and gathered outside the palace. The sect masters and elders of the 5 great spirit mountains were all present. Thousands of cultivators dressed in neat uniforms stood on both sides of the main road, bowing respectfully to the sect masters. There was already a sea of people all around because no one from the Great Zhou country wanted to miss this historical moment. The Great Zhou royal family had just been rebuilt, so there were no soldiers, no servants, and no maids. All the ceremonies were simple, but this did not affect the level of this coronation ceremony. From the sect masters to the elders, this scene was rarely seen in the Great Zhou country. Not to mention that they were all expressing their approval and support for the royal family. The Great Zhou royal family had just been rebuilt, but their status had already surpassed 18 years ago. Chen Bingyu was wearing a crown and a royal robe. She was currently being supported by Nangong Yun and Meng Yingying as she ascended the throne under the sound of bells and drums. The Black Moon sect offers 110,000-year-old black crystals, celebrating the Great Zhou King's ascension. The Void Spirit Cave offers 1,000 thunder protection talismans, celebrating the Great Zhou King's ascension. The Medicine King Valley offers 1,000 Heaven Spirit Raising Pills, celebrating the Great Zhou King's ascension. The Black Tortoise sect offers 10,000 Black Tortoise soldiers, celebrating the Great Zhou King's ascension. The Divine Machine Hall has gifted 100 Vajra machine guards to guard the palace, to celebrate the ascension of the King of Great Zhou. Now that the 5 large sects had taken the lead to offer gifts, the small and medium-sized powers did not dare be negligent. They all offered their most precious treasures to the newly established Great Zhou royal family. Just from the gifts from these large and small Great Zhou powers, the Great Zhou royal family could build a treasure house. He was too surprised. The 5 great sects took the initiative to pay tribute to the newly established royal court. This was clearly taking the initiative to curry favor. The Great Zhou country's 6 spiritual mountains had always been strong. When had something like this ever happened? Not long after everyone was shocked, 2 very special teams of emissaries suddenly appeared in the crowd. Northern militant King Luz has sent 10,000 good beasts to congratulate the new king of Great Zhou on ascending the throne. Great Summer King Dong Fang Gan has sent 10,000 source energy weapons to congratulate the new Great Zhou king. The expressions of the Great Zhou people became quite strange. Northern militant king. The king of Grand Xia. When did all of this appear? Why didn't people know about the appearance of such a country and its name? Chen Bingyu sat on the throne. She had long silver hair, a cold and elegant face, and a mature temperament, making her look like a high and mighty queen. She used a calm and dignified gaze to look over these people and nodded to Meng Yingying beside her. Cool, cool. Meng Yingying cleared her throat and walked out. Her hands opened a royal proclamation and she began to read, Great Zhou Royal Proclamation. Although the Great Zhou Royal Court has been rebuilt, there are evil inside and strong enemies outside, with many tigers and wolves surrounding us. For the stability of the Great Zhou country, this king has decided to exchange royal proclamations with the Northern Militant and Great Summer country to establish relations, to establish prosperity and create a peaceful era. The 5 spiritual mountain sect masters cupped their hands. My king is wise. The 5 sect masters were like this, so how could the others have any objections? The 5 spiritual mountain disciples all bowed down. The small and medium-sized sects and normal citizens all knelt down on the ground. My king is wise. My king is wise. My king is wise. The Northern Militant King Luz and the Great Summer King Dong Fang Gan both walked onto the high platform. They began to exchange royal proclamations and sign a peaceful alliance contract. This meant that from now on, the Great Zhou, Great Summer, and Northern Militant Kingdoms would become one. Although they were independent, the barriers between them had been broken, forming a circle of prosperity. This kind of large matter was done just like that. The citizens of the 3 countries naturally found this unbelievable. But the people who knew the inside story knew that the Great Zhou King's ascension was just a play. Miracle Commerce was the director and scriptwriter of this play, so they had already made large amounts of preparations. The Great Zhou King was a high-level member of Miracle Commerce, the Northern Militant King was a member of Miracle Commerce, and the Great Summer King had a deep relationship with Miracle Commerce. Basically, as long as Miracle Commerce didn't fall, this triangle relationship wouldn't fall. Looking at the current situation, the Great Zhou country was far stronger than the Great Summer country and the Northern Militant country, but there wouldn't be any losers in this alliance. The three countries' combined strength would double. Not only could they block the Northern Eagle Burial country's invasion, they could also use Miracle Commerce's technology to soar. The future would only become better and it wouldn't be worse than now. The Great Zhou country's ascension ceremony ended after a day. Luz had just established his regime in the Northern Militant and had a bunch of things to deal with. Thus, he had to rush back immediately. Dongfang Gan couldn't stay in the Great Zhou kingdom for too long. After discussing the details of the collaboration with Chen Bingyu, he returned to the Great Xia kingdom. We have to return to Miracle City. Big Sister Bing, you have to take care of yourself. In the Cloud City Palace, Meng Yingying and Nangong Yun said their goodbyes to Chen Bingyu. The two of them revealed expressions of regret. Chen Bingyu had become the Great Zhou country's empress and there were many things she had to take care of in the Great Zhou country, so she couldn't return to Miracle City to live with everyone for a while. Chen Bingyu's cold face revealed a trace of disappointment. Go back and tell Chu Tian that I will manage the three kingdoms, so he can be assured. That idiot Chu Tian is also too much. Meng Yingying complained. He went back and found elder sister to translate the cultivation technique, not meeting anyone before going into closed-door cultivation. He didn't even come to take a look at such a big matter in the Great Zhou country. Nangong Yun was also a bit indignant. That's right, Big Sister Bing is staying in the Great Zhou country alone and the boss doesn't come to visit. This is a bit unfair. Chen Bingyu revealed a smile like the spring sun melting snow. Don't exaggerate it like this, it isn't hard to see him now. There's no need to worry about me, go back early. Big Sister Bing can be assured. I'll go back and give elder sister an application to have the company build a second transport tower in the Great Zhou country. It'll be built in the Imperial City's royal palace, so we can see each other every day. Chen Bingyu's heart slightly moved. The Great Zhou country already had a transport tower and it cost quite a bit to build one, so there shouldn't be a second one built in the short term. But if Meng Yingying personally applied, perhaps Meng Qinggu could approve it. If the Great Zhou royal palace had a transport tower, what was the difference between Chen Bingyu living in the royal palace and Miracle City? Chen Bingyu wasn't interested in the Great Zhou king. But it was related to the important strategy of Miracle Commerce, so she had to sit on the throne. Forest of Chaos, Miracle City. Meng Qinggu and Dolores were handling various matters, while Zero and several smart brains were busy managing the city. After Zero collected the data and analyzed it, he reported to Meng Qinggu, Sir Vice City Lord, this merging of the Great Zhou country is very important to Miracle Commerce's development. The first batch of talents includes mechanical masters, alchemists, talisman masters, and array masters, reaching around 50,000 people. There are 2 special talents with spatial innate talent and 16 spiritual innate talent. Meng Qinggu revealed a rare satisfied smile. This was one of the meanings of conquering the Great Zhou country. Miracle Commerce didn't just want to create a regional alliance and make this regional alliance the cornerstone of Miracle Commerce's domination of the continent, it also wanted to occupy the relevant resources and absorb the relevant talents, increasing the background of Miracle Commerce. With enough resources and talents, what couldn't they do? Chu Tian wanted to make a warship. Of course there was no problem. Chu Tian wanted to make a spiritual internet. Of course there was no problem. This was because Miracle Commerce was becoming stronger and stronger, they already had these conditions. There's never too many talents, we'll take as many as we have. On the other hand, we need to have a strict audit and technology security system. Meng Qinggu quickly ordered, Zero, according to the situation of the company and the needs of the various departments, please give me the best allocation. Yes, Vice City Lord. Zero turned silent after saying this and began to calculate. After all, this was not a small task. Miracle Commerce was too big, so he had to go through a large amount of calculations to make the best allocation for the company. The smart brain was too easy to use. Meng Qinggu was most satisfied with Miracle Commerce's smart brain, this was truly a great invention. Although miracle commerce had reached a technical bottleneck and the computing speed of the matrix couldn't make a qualitative leap, the matrix was already shrinking and the production speed of the smart brain was quickly increasing. Meng Qinggu had already completed the basic layout of the smart brain. From the citizen's identity information, daily service management, to the city's financial and bank financial management, as well as the shopping center, communication, and the spiritual network, it was all under Meng Qinggu's arrangements. There was a complete smart brain control system. Other than that, the cooperation between the Elven King and Miracle Commerce had deepened, with transport towers being built in various places. These transport towers and space warehouses were all managed by smart brains. Meng Qinggu had a strict identity verification and security system, and now with the intelligent management of the smart brain, everything was being monitored by Miracle Commerce and all risks were being reduced to a minimum. An intelligent city was being born in the depths of the forest. An inconceivable era was quickly awakening. Meng Qinggu walked in front of the window. When she saw the flourishing city, it was hard for her to suppress the pride in her heart. She had used all her intelligence and schemes on the most optimal construction. As for what the future would look like, it was already not something Meng Qinggu could imagine. In short, it had to be heaven. Chapter 5:11. Chu Tian had been in closed-door cultivation for 10 days to consolidate his realm and refine his spirit energy. Of course, the most important thing was to comprehend the new phaseless sword art. This was a strange technique left behind by the mysterious Tian clan in ancient times. The reason why this sword art was named phaseless was mainly because the phaseless sword art was a strange sword art with spatial attribute. Therefore, it was traceless and formless, making people unable to grasp it and guard against it. The difficulty of cultivating the phaseless sword art was too high. Not only did it require the highest level sword cultivation talent and source spirit, it also required spatial energy. How could it be easy to meet these harsh requirements? The Great Zhou country's Heavenly Sword Sect's small phaseless sword was a new simplified sword art created by the Heavenly Sword Sect's founder to solve this problem. The small phaseless sword stripped away the unpredictable spatial ability, but it still had the characteristic of being invisible, and its killing power was extremely astonishing. However, in terms of power and other aspects, there was still a huge gap between the small phaseless sword and the real phaseless sword art. Chu Tian was cultivating the true phaseless sword. At this moment, Chu Tian was in the Miracle Gardens, sitting in a beautiful little valley in a white robe. His body was surrounded by beautiful red and purple flowers, and there were too many rare herbs to count. There were small flower fairies around him, providing spiritual essence for Chu Tian's cultivation. Phaseless sword finger. Chu Tian opened his eyes and casually flicked his finger. The small mountain several thousand meters away, without any warning, the peak of the mountain suddenly tilted. The mountain rock that weighed several tens of thousands of pounds fell into the lake, creating a large wave. The cut on the small mountain was as smooth as a mirror. After 2-3 seconds, countless blue and white flames appeared, burning the remaining mountain rock at a terrifying speed. Wow, so powerful! The flower fairies all began to clap. Lulu landed on Chu Tian's shoulder and said, "Such a complex and profound cultivation technique, but you only used 10 days to grasp it, you're truly amazing." Chu Tian was very satisfied with the power of the phaseless sword art. The non-phase sword art could cut through space, and at the same time, it could fuse the sword chi into an attack. This attack could basically cut through any solid matter, and it could also completely ignore the distance of the attack. If combined with Chu Tian's powerful divine sense, no matter where the opponent was, even if the two were separated by thousands of meters, he could take the opponent's head with a flick of his finger. Non-phase sword art was a nearly perfect sword art. If one had to find a flaw, it would be that the consumption was too big. After these days of closed-door cultivation, Chu Tian's cultivation had smoothly broken through to the rank 4 true spirit realm. He had now completed the transformation from the Earth Spirit Cultivator to the Heaven Spirit Cultivator. Chu Tian's total amount of spirit energy was also several times higher than cultivators of the same level, but even so, it was only enough to activate the phaseless sword art. In the future, Chu Tian would not completely focus on practicing non-phase sword. Right now, Miracle Commerce has obtained various top sword cultivation books and secret techniques from the Heavenly Sword sect, and many other secret techniques from the other 5 spiritual mountains have all been sent to Miracle Commerce. There were 2 organizations directly under Chu Tian. One was the core organization of Miracle Commerce, the Yun sect. The Yun sect was a large research organization, with several tens of thousands of people. All of Miracle Commerce's new technology and products came from this organization. The other core organization was the Chu sect. The Yun sect was a group of scholars and the Chu sect was a group of martial artists. The Chu sect had already absorbed large amounts of retainers. From the chiefs of the large tribes in the forest to the elders and sect masters of the great Zhou country's large sects, they had all become retainers of the Chu sect. Qilin Hall was an important organization of the Chu sect. The Chu sect mainly explored cultivation techniques, research cultivation techniques, and research secret techniques. One was civil and one was martial. Because of the large amounts of knowledge and technology that Chu Tian brought, the Yun sect was Miracle Commerce's most dazzling department. The Chu sect was inferior in comparison, but as Miracle Commerce continued to develop, Chu Tian would gather more books and secret techniques from the continent, as well as more advanced cultivation experiences and martial arts. Chu Tian believed that in the future, the Chu sect would be in existence that could change history. Chu Tian began to slowly adjust his spirit energy as he stood up. I've cultivated for over 10 days, it's time to come out. Thank you for helping me. No need to be polite, come play when you have time. Chu Tian passed by the center of the Miracle Gardens. There was a 30-meter tall tree that stood in the center of the Miracle Gardens. Each leaf was filled with vitality and the entire garden was covered in a dense mist. The ancient tree of life is growing too fast, it's still a few days away from germinating. Of course, the ancient tree of life is a divine object, of course it can't compare to a mortal object. The ancient tree of life stood in the center of Miracle City, so the area affected would become larger and larger. It would gather the forest of chaos earth veins, changing Miracle City's foundation. After it grew to a certain level as a city lord, the ancient tree of life's power would awaken and it would become Miracle City's guardian deity. With the flower fairies and the Treants protecting it, it was not an easy matter for other powers to steal or destroy it. He didn't know what the current situation in Miracle City was like. Chu Tian decided to take a look incognito. In order to avoid being recognized by the citizens, he specially put on a large cloak. After the Battle of Miracle City ended, the city had returned to its original state. All traces of the battle had disappeared and the city was even more lively than before. In front of the shopping center, there were several elven girls holding loudspeakers and billboards as they shouted. Good news, good news. The cell phone that everyone has been waiting for has finally appeared in the Miracle Shopping Center. Because the quantity is limited, it can only be purchased online right now. Those with citizen cards can enjoy a 20% discount. The cell phone had already been mass-produced and was now on the market. This was a product made from many products of Miracle Commerce. Although it was not as good as the original product, it was more convenient and concentrated, therefore it was a product with a large market. Chu Tian walked over to take a look. This new cell phone was more refined than the trial version made for the high-level people. Moreover, as the first cell phone released by Miracle Commerce and Miracle City, it would have a large commemorative value in the future, therefore everyone wanted to buy one. These elves selling the cell phones were definitely not Miracle City's natives. But Chu Tian didn't find this strange. Because of the relationship between the Elven King Lancelot and the Vice City Lord Vivian, there were quite a few elves who came to Miracle City to work and some elves even built small towns nearby. There were already a portion of the elves, especially the young people who came to Miracle City. Some joined Miracle Commerce and some formed teams to start their own businesses. There were already several film and television companies created by the elves. Chu Tian asked in a curious voice, "What is a citizen card? You don't even know this? You must be an outsider." A Miracle City gnome looked at Chu Tian like he was a country bumpkin. He took out a thin crystal card from his pocket and waved it in front of Chu Tian like he was showing off. Miracle City has been collecting a large amount of information on the citizens recently. All the information is stored in the city's database and they are using high-tech to create personal information cards. Don't look down on this card, there is a person's spiritual imprint on it. Each person's spiritual imprint is different and the citizen card is unique, there is no way to imitate it. It represents the identity of each official citizen. Chu Tian as the city lord didn't know about this at all and was being looked down upon by his own citizens. This was too shameful, it was a good thing he wasn't recognized. The citizen card can be used to buy things. Stupid. Miracle City's citizen card is not just proof of identity, it can also be used to open Miracle Commerce's personal savings function. We can put source stones in the bank and use the citizen card to spend money in Miracle Commerce, it is fast and convenient. The most important thing is that we can earn interest by putting money in the bank. Why are you saying this much to him? These outsiders won't understand anyway. Right. I should quickly buy a cell phone, otherwise I'll run out of stock. They were too lazy to care about this country bumpkin as they all went into the shopping center to buy new products. Chu Tian walked around and found that Miracle City was promoting the citizen card. This was Meng Qingwu's information system to make it easier for Miracle City to manage. She had invested large amounts of manpower and resources into creating a citizen's information system. The information of each citizen living in Miracle City would be collected and the other merchants and travelers would also have to go through the relevant procedures. This information would be used to create a database. Finally, based on the individual situation, they would be given citizen cards or other identification cards. Meng Qingwu's foresight made people sigh in admiration. This kind of information system had a large significance. It was as small as managing the city and helping with security, as large as opening bank accounts, personal loans, transport, and logistics management, as well as all of Miracle Commerce's business. This was a solid foundation for the information empire. This cell phone seems different from the ones we're using. Chu Tian found a counter selling cell phones in the Miracle Shopping Center. In the end, Chu Tian was surprised to find that not only was the cell phone different from the one they were using, there were also some differences in the internal functions. This is the first cell phone Miracle Commerce has released. Not only does it combine the functions of radio, video, camera, and communication, there is also a microcalculation matrix embedded inside. Miracle Commerce has used this microcalculation matrix as the foundation to create a system for the cell phone, making it easier to operate and having more comprehensive functions. This time Chu Tian was shocked. The microcalculation matrix was a simplified source energy matrix. The current Miracle Commerce's source energy matrix couldn't surpass 2 billion, so no matter how much it was compressed, it still had to be packed in boxes. It had to be at least several hundred kilograms, so it couldn't be portable. The Yun Sek's laboratory kept simplifying the source energy matrix, not caring about the cost of weakening it, just to minimize the size of the matrix. In the end, they successfully created a microcalculation matrix. The smallest calculation speed was only a few 100,000 and it couldn't be equipped with intelligence, so it didn't have any data processing ability or value. However, it could be developed into a simple operating system. The first batch of cell phones were equipped with microcalculation chips, allowing the cell phone to have the ability to process information, creating a more flexible interface. This could be considered a breakthrough. Chapter 5:12. Miracle City's City Lord's Castle was holding a general meeting. The company's development had reached a turning point, so the focus of this meeting was to summarize the past and discuss the future. Meng Qingwu was wearing the City Lord's robe as she sat in the Vice City Lord's seat, her beautiful and dignified face was very serious. There were several dozen people present, other than the various tribe leaders and Dongfang Haoren and a few generals, the rest were all peerless beauties. Not only were they very young, they all had their own merits and each one had a serious expression. At this time, a relaxed voice suddenly broke the heavy atmosphere in the meeting room. Hey! Yun Yao! Feng Kaidai! Why are you back? Chu Tian walked in through the side door and immediately saw two people he hadn't seen in a long time. It was Yun Yao and Feng Kaidai. They were both high-level executives of Miracle Commerce, but they had been working in Oldman's small town for a long time. Chu Tian was very surprised. When were you transferred back to headquarters? I didn't even know. Feng Kaidai was still gentle and elegant, looking like a very cultured young miss from the outside. This kind of temperament made people feel like they were bathing in a spring breeze. Seeing Chu Tian, she revealed a gentle smile. There are no more big matters in Oldman's small town, it's enough for Yun Yao's little brother Yun Xiao to manage it. We received elder sister Qingwu's transfer order and we took advantage of the fact that the Oldman transport tower was completed 2 days ago to come with Yun Yao to help. Yun Yao glared at Chu Tian and her voice was filled with sarcasm. We've been in the city for a few days and you've only appeared now. You're truly a free and easy city lord. You're misunderstanding me by saying this. Actually, I'm very diligent normally, I'm not in closed-door cultivation right now. When Chu Tian said this, Meng Yingying and Nan Gongyun rolled their eyes and Meng Qingwu also glared at him. Chu Tian didn't realize it at all, but two beauties have come from afar and it's my fault that I couldn't hold a welcoming reception for you. Since it's like this, why are we having a meeting? Come, let's go drink. City Lord. Finance Minister Dolores stood up unhappily. This usually flirtatious vixen looked even more serious than Meng Qingwu at this moment. She said in a serious and reproachful tone, today's meeting is very important. Even if you don't help us, don't cause trouble, okay? Sorry, I was too excited. Chu Tian felt bored and sat down. He crossed his legs and said to the young miss, let's begin. Meng Qingwu said, let's start from the production department. The production department was a very important department, so naturally it had to be managed by the most trustworthy person. Minister Meng Yingying quickly took out the prepared information. Our Miracle Commerce's production department has done very well in the past month, with each production task being completed by an average of 20%. There are over 50 new factories, with 2/3 of them in the forest of chaos. Other than that, we are combining smart brains to create intelligent products. Currently, Meng Yingying spoke of a large amount of data and explained the situation in detail. She also introduced the future production plan and specific tasks. She spoke very smoothly, making Chu Tian look at her in a new light. Meng Qingwu gave her advice after hearing this. Meng Yingying quickly recorded it down. Good. Chu Tian applauded in a very exaggerated manner. Miracle Commerce has a smart and capable commander like Yingying, our production line can definitely be guaranteed. Meng Yingying's face turned red. She didn't actually do anything because her elder sister had given her 2 smart brains. These were all collected and analyzed by the smart brains, even the production plan and tasks were given by the smart brains. Yingying just summarized it and gave her opinion. Her elder sister was in charge of the overall situation, so she didn't need to plan anything herself. Our production department is very smooth and our research is on the right track. We are currently developing in an orderly manner, so I'll first show everyone the related projects. Meng Qingwu waved her hand and a large screen came down, showing a busy factory. Look, this is Miracle Commerce's newest spaceship base. We have recruited large amounts of people and invested large amounts of money, preparing to create a large-scale weapon that will dominate the future war. Because it is too complex, it will take a year to finish. A year? This was indeed a bit long. But this kind of complex large-scale weapon was not something that could be completed in a day. Meng Yingying quickly said, the production department will immediately prepare the related factories. Once the spaceship is finished, it will be produced as soon as possible. A second screen came down at this time. Meng Qingwu said to the image inside, this is the new source energy weapons research room. The company has recruited large amounts of experienced mechanical masters from the Great Zhou country. Me and the Yun sect believe that the mechanical armors of mechanical masters are very valuable. If we can modify it with Miracle Commerce's technology, using source energy batteries to drive it, adding in source energy shields, source energy swords, and source energy weapons, we can create a source energy fighter mech. While she was speaking, another screen showed the design. Meng Qinggu looked at Chu Tian. What does the city lord think? This design is not bad. Chu Tian looked at it for a bit. I believe that once the mech armor is developed, even the weakest soldier can become an expert. But I suggest we strengthen it further. For example, adding a power engine to the mech armor, making it even faster and stronger. It would be best if we can add flying equipment, so our mech armor soldiers can freely fly in the sky. We can even install a smart brain on each mech armor, creating an intelligent battle. Meng Qinggu quickly waved her hand to stop him. Stop, stop, stop. Does the young miss have anything better to add? Although your idea is very good, it's too far from reality. Meng Qinggu said with a sigh. Miracle Commerce's main problem is that we don't have enough funds, so we can't develop this high-level mech armor right now. Even if we develop a normal mech armor, it would be hard to mass-produce it. At most we can equip an elite army. We lack money. It can't be. Chu Tian had a look of disbelief. Didn't we just borrow over 100,000 source stones from the Eternal Forest not long ago? The funds have already been filled, and with the company's income, we can't maintain this little bit of research funding. City Lord, you really don't know the cost of food without managing the household. The finance minister Dolores couldn't sit still. Do you know how much resources this mech armor costs? Our current budget is 300,000 source stones. As for the airship budget, it is a terrifying number. As for the Gnome and Yunsect laboratories, they are spending more and more every month, just like a bottomless pit. Not to mention that we just conquered the Warhound Plains and the Great Zhou country, we still need to take out large amounts of source stones to invest in these places. How many people are queuing up in the Miracle City area to apply for loans? With our current financial situation, it is simply too difficult. Chu Tian's head swelled from hearing this. What the hell? They actually spent this much money? We have many projects right now. Other than the Miracle Shopping Center and the Spiritual Energy Network, there are many other projects that need to be deployed. Meng Qinggu lowered a few more screens and pointed at one of them as she said, for example, the city defense system. We plan to build missile silos in the hidden mountain ranges around Miracle City, creating a long-range military force. Other than that, we are preparing to build giant source energy cannons in the mountains to deal with powerful enemies in the future. Chu Tian felt more depressed the more he heard. Father always thought that Miracle Commerce was a money-making monster. As long as they fixed the holes in front of them, they wouldn't need to worry about money at all. Looking at the current situation, not only did Miracle Commerce lack money, it wasn't just a little bit. Although we need a lot of money, everyone doesn't need to be discouraged. Meng Qinggu saw that everyone's morale was a bit low. As the Vice City Lord, she immediately encouraged them. Miracle Commerce still has a large profit potential, but our current business is limited to the Great Summer Country and a few forest tribes. Moreover, the entire market has not been opened yet. We have built over 10 transport towers in the forest and are cooperating with the Eternal Forest. In the future, we will be doing business with several elven cities and tribes. Other than that, with the Great Zhou country and the Northern Militant country as the foundation, we will be expanding to the surrounding countries. The investment now isn't small, but the returns will be even larger in the future. Chu Tian nodded. That's right, there are several forest tribes and a Great Summer country. How many markets can there be? We need to expand our territory. The layout needs to be sped up. The powers in the Savage Highlands are still restless and there are too many variables, we can't slowly develop. Meng Qinggu began to make arrangements. Yun Yao, Kai Dai, you two will take over Dolores's work and work for the Miracle Shopping Center and foreign trade. You two already have experience, so there shouldn't be any problems. This is the map of the forest cities and underground cities I've prepared for you, as well as the general information of these cities, including the nearby large tribes. Miracle City will give you enough caravans and people, you just need to be in charge of dealing with them. This task was not light at all. Feng Kaidai was appointed as the foreign minister. Yun Yao was appointed as the commerce minister. The two of them immediately stood up. We'll definitely do a good job. Chu Tian asked, what about our chief financial officer Dolores? Miracle City's commerce minister was Dolores in the past, and the Fox Caravan was established by Dolores. Now that the diplomatic and commercial matters were given to Feng Kaidai and Feng Kaidai, wouldn't Dolores have nothing to do? This seductive fox's abilities weren't weak, it would be a pity if she was left idle in the city. Meng Qinggu replied, Miracle Commerce's biggest problem right now is the lack of money. Dolores has another important task, so she will focus on developing miracle banking from today onwards. Dolores nodded. I ask the city lord to be assured, the current Miracle City citizens already have a high enough trust in us. Ever since we introduced the citizen card and created the personal savings business, Miracle Banking's performance has been rising. I believe that the bank's potential has not been fully displayed yet. Miracle Banking was proposed by Dolores, so it had a special meaning to her. Dolores would naturally do her best to develop it. Meng Qinggu emphasized again, everyone remember, the current calm doesn't mean it will be stable forever. With the protection of the Treants and the good relationship with the elves, we still have to rely on external help. Every moment we are not strong is a moment we can't relax. Danger is always lurking in the shadows, so you must be prepared for danger in times of peace. Miracle City will develop as quickly as possible. Yes. Chu Tian hadn't participated in the young Miss meetings many times, but he never thought the young Miss aura would be this strong. After being tempered by the chairman for over a year, she had become more mature and more like a strong woman who could see the big picture. The meeting ended here. Everyone already knew what to do. Miracle City and Miracle Commerce's biggest problem right now was that they didn't have money. Therefore, in the future, making money was the most important task for Miracle Commerce. Each department and each team had to work hard for this goal. Chapter 5:13. Miracle Commerce's savings business in the past only targeted groups, like the gnomes and the surrounding tribes. That was because Miracle City didn't have enough credibility at the time, so they could only work with close allies. The situation now was different. Meng Qinggu decided to properly develop the banking business. This was an important part of Miracle Commerce's strategy, and it could provide Miracle Commerce with an endless supply of funds in the future. As for risk control, there was no need to worry about that. Meng Qinggu was very confident in Miracle Commerce's current situation. Just Miracle Commerce had too many things to invest in, so the failure rate of these investments was negligible. Miracle City's situation was already very different. Whether it was the citizens or the surrounding tribes, they all had a high sense of recognition towards Miracle City. The citizens' savings and the change in currency were already ripe. Meng Qinggu spent quite a bit of effort to create a database of the citizens and popularize citizen cards in the city. There were already initial results, and Miracle Commerce continued to receive tens of thousands of source stones. The city had around 1 million people, so the flowing source stones would reach several million. Even if they could only absorb a tenth of it, it would still be several 100,000. Of course, in order to motivate the citizens to save money, Miracle Commerce announced the interest rates for individual savings. They opened a current account with an annual interest rate of 5%, with interest being generated every day, and they could withdraw it at any time. As for fixed accounts, there were monthly, half a year, a full year, 2 years, 3 years, and etc. The longer it was saved, the higher the interest. If it was saved for 3 years, the annual interest rate would reach 50%. 100 source stones in the bank for 3 years, not only would the capital of 100 source stones be a lot, the interest would reach 150 source stones. Miracle Commerce also allowed people to withdraw it ahead of time, but it would be downgraded based on the amount of time it had been saved, and there would be a processing fee. It was definitely a common financial management method. The most important thing was the Great Zhou country, the Great Summer country, the various forest cities, and even the other countries. Miracle Commerce was building banks. Miracle Commerce was managed by smart brains, with several super source energy matrices operating at the same time. The data system would be complete, and after people deposited their source stones in Miracle Commerce, they could withdraw it from any place with Miracle Commerce. Other than that, Miracle Bank had direct spending power. Whether it was the Miracle Shopping Center, Miracle Hotel, Miracle Arena, Trial Field, or Chelan Hall, as long as they were in Miracle Commerce's business, they could all be purchased with a card. It was fast and convenient. Other than that, Miracle Bank was preparing to establish a currency system. The currency could be directly linked to source stones and could be exchanged for source stones in Miracle City. People could use this currency for daily transactions, making life much more convenient. Miracle Banking's transfer business was about to be tested. In the future, merchants would be able to trade with Miracle Banking. This way, it would eliminate the trouble and risk of carrying a large number of primordial stones. Moreover, primordial stones could continuously generate income just by sitting in the bank, so why not? Meng Qingguo was a strategist with great foresight. With Meng Qingguo personally planning and preparing, as well as a capable person like Dolores, how hard would it be for Miracle Bank to develop? Chu Tian had always been indifferent to the affairs of the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce was filled with talented people, so why did he need to blindly worry about this? Chu Tian practiced his sword art every day, reading all kinds of books, and doing research whenever he had time. Although Miracle Commerce's research ability was very strong, one Chu Tian was better than 10,000 researchers. The bottlenecks of the Yun sect could be easily broken through as long as Chu Tian made a move. The young miss was a workaholic and had been very busy recently. Chu Tian came to Yingying's office and saw Yingying sitting at the table, writing something. There were several gnome assistants who were helping her organize the information. Chu Tian, you came at the right time. Did you know that? The number of people opening accounts in Miracle Bank has increased by several times. Meng Yingying happily reported the results. We almost have enough funds. You're thinking of the problem too simply. Miracle Bank can't easily make a mistake, we still have to consider the risks involved. Otherwise, if there is a crisis, people's trust in us will be greatly reduced. With the young Miss' cautious personality, I'm afraid she won't dare move too much money to make loans or investments. Meng Yingying had never thought of this before. She slightly knit her brows. What should they do now? Chu Tian suddenly gave a sigh. Having a big business also has its disadvantages. Meng Yingying was stunned. She didn't know why Chu Tian had this kind of feeling. What disadvantages? Even our Yingying keeps talking about business, this doesn't seem like your personality. Meng Yingying was a bit embarrassed. I just want to help everyone. I'm a bit stupid and can't do anything well. It's a good thing elder sister gave me a few smart brains. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to do anything. Chu Tian hugged Yingying's shoulder. Hi, then don't make it hard on yourself. If there's anything, just leave it to the smart brains and assistants. Why do you have to do everything yourself? Meng Yingying was a bit embarrassed. We're in public right now, so don't get physical. Ha, what are you afraid of? Who doesn't know our relationship? Chu Tian's face was as thick as a city wall. The gnomes were a bit embarrassed and could only pretend like they didn't see anything. Chu Tian said, Come, I'll bring you to a fun place. A fun place? Where is it? The elven small town is holding a gourmet exchange. Vivian sent me an invitation. Gourmet exchange? Meng Yingying instantly revealed an interested look. Chu Tian continued to introduce. Several dozen elves from various towns and forests will gather in Moonshine Town at around dusk. Each elven participating will bring their most delicious food to share with everyone. Think about it, these elves all come from different areas of the Forest of Chaos, so how many delicious things will there be? Tell me, can we miss this kind of fun banquet? Meng Yingying's eyes lit up. There's actually this kind of interesting event. It's said that other than the gourmet exchange, there will also be a forest fashion show, an art exhibition, and a music conference. These are all things that are rarely seen in 100 years. Chu Tian saw that Meng Yingying was already very excited, so he didn't waste any more words. He directly said to Mang Yingying's assistants, "I'll leave the matters here to you all. Minister Yingying and I will be leaving for a day or two." "Yes." Mang Yingying was a bit hesitant. "Everyone is very busy right now. If I do this, will it?" "What are you worried about?" "Not to mention nothing, even if something happens, I'll take care of it." Chu Tian's attitude was very firm as he said, "The Elven King and some other members will also be attending, so this isn't just for fun, it is to promote friendship and strengthen the Elven Alliance. I order you to come with me as the city lord." "Is that so? So it's this important?" Mang Yingying no longer hesitated as she excitedly said in a high-spirited voice, "We can't be casual, we have to prepare Miracle City's best food. Miracle City's food will not lose to the elves." "That's right, what clothes do you think we should wear?" The two of them discussed as they left. The elven food exchange was indeed a rare sight. Chu Tian originally planned to eat, drink, and have fun empty-handed, but Mang Yingying firmly disagreed. She felt that it was too rude, and that he must prepare food that suited human characteristics. Finally they found the Miracle Hotel's source energy chef. They just happened to have a fresh level 3 high-grade demon beef. The two of them immediately agreed, carefully cooking several large steaks. Mang Yingying's exquisite face was filled with memories. "I remember when we were in South Sky City, the first source energy food we cooked was steak, so this is the food that best represents us." "That's right. A certain young miss was filled with passion back then and actually wanted to start a business selling steak. Now that I think about it, if we continued doing it back then, perhaps there would have been a chain of steak shops everywhere." Mang Yingying fiercely glared at him, "You're not allowed to expose my dark history, I'm not done with you." The two of them packed up the steaks and headed to Moonlight Town. It was unknown how the Elven King convinced the Elven Council, but although the elves built Moonlight Town next to Miracle City, the Elven Town was still closed off. Outsiders couldn't enter, so they didn't know much about the elves' lives. The entire Elven Town had a population of around 10,000 and most of them were young elves. Moreover, the elves were very rich, so there were very few precious items in Miracle City. There were quite a few new products like cell phones in the Elven Town. When Chu Tian brought Mang Yingying to the small town, the two of them were stunned by the scene inside. The entire Elven Town was filled with Miracle Commerce's products. There were giant screens, speakers, and all kinds of exquisite source energy lamps. Each street was covered in a gentle glow, there were tree houses neatly arranged, and all kinds of crystal and wood sculptures were neatly arranged. There were thousands of elves walking around the small town, each person carrying a full food box. There were all kinds of jams, pastries, and elven delicacies everywhere. The elves were singing around the moon well. The entire small town was very lively. "The city lord is here. City Lord Chu Tian is here." Chu Tian was recognized as soon as he arrived. Several hundred elves surrounded Chu Tian and each elf had a face filled with joy. Their eyes lit up like they had seen their idol for a long time. "I'm from the Silver Moon Forest. I've heard your story, I really admire you." An elven girl squeezed to the front, "My parents and little brother really want to see you. Can you give me an autograph?" "Of course, there's no problem." Chu Tian picked up a pen with a smile. "How many do you want?" "1. 2, oh no, 3. All right, I'll give it to you." The elven girl took the autograph and happily cried out, "I've gotten City Lord Chu Tian's autograph, I've gotten City Lord Chu Tian's autograph." The other elves' moods instantly exploded. "I'm from the Twilight Forest, I also admire you." "I'm from Green Jade City. I like to watch movies and my dream is to make movies." There's also me. Chu Tian never would have thought that since he was famous among the elves, he would be surrounded by countless fanatical worshippers. These elves all came from different forest towns and it wasn't easy for them to come to Miracle City. This was because the transport towers could easily harm the main city. The transport towers in other places had restrictions and the transport towers were all managed by smart brains. Each elf that wanted to use the transport tower first had to apply for a transport permit from Miracle Commerce. This transport permit needed to collect a person's information, and finally they would be given a citizen card with a spiritual imprint. The elves would be able to use this permit to teleport in the future. Miracle City had temporarily restricted the teleportation area. Even if the elves obtained the transport permit, they could only teleport within their tribe or within their country, which meant they could only teleport in their own territory. If they wanted to teleport to Miracle City, Oldman Small Town, or any other place, they needed to clearly write down the reason and purpose of the teleportation and apply for a special permit for that area. They could only enter after being approved by the government of that area. Otherwise, with the transport array controlled by smart brains, these directions would be sealed and they wouldn't be able to teleport. This exchange was very hard to come by. The elves were representatives from each city and they could only enter after being approved by Meng Qinggu. But they could only play around in Miracle City for a week at most, so they treasured this chance. In their eyes, Chu Tian was a genius that created everything, an omnipotent idol. Now that they saw him in person, how could they not be excited? Chapter 5:14. Chu Tian was surrounded by a large group of elven worshippers, and most of them were beautiful young elven girls, which made Meng Yingying on the side filled with jealousy. Didn't he say he was coming to the conference? He was actually here to pick up girls. Cool. What are you all doing? What are you all doing? The Elven Council's chairman Augusta appeared with a shout and the elves quickly retreated. The Elven King Lancelot and several high-level members of the Elven Council had come, as well as several Elven city lords. Vivian was following behind them, and when she saw Chu Tian, she immediately winked at him. The Elven Conference, Chu Tian being able to attend made Vivian very happy. Although the speaker's face was not very good and his eyes were not kind, after all, it was this fellow who destroyed the Elven tradition, so how could they hope to give him a good look? Chu Tian did not care about this at all, his face was as thick as a wall. He immediately brought Meng Yingying over to greet him with a smile. You are Miracle City's city lord, Chu Tian. Several unfamiliar elves looked at him with curiosity. These people were all famous characters among the elves, being city lords of elven cities. Even in the Forest of Chaos, they were considered first-class experts. These elves were not unfamiliar with Chu Tian and Miracle City. Although Miracle City's overall strength was not strong, now that they had the Treants, unless it was a giant-level power, it was hard for them to be threatened by other powers. They had become a very influential power in the Forest of Chaos, becoming famous in the Forest of Chaos recently. If it's not Chu Tian, who else could it be? The Elven King Lancelot first introduced the city lords to Chu Tian before saying to Chu Tian, "It's said that city lord Chu Tian has subdued the northern Great Zhou country and has made large progress. This is truly worthy of celebration, coming to the elven small town despite your busy schedule, the elves are very grateful." Meng Yingying saw the Elven King being this polite and was a bit flattered. No. Being invited here is our honor. Vivian cut in, I invited Big Brother Chu Tian. Augusta revealed a dissatisfied expression. This was clearly an elven gathering, what was wrong with inviting a human? Today is a lively day, we shouldn't just stand here and watch. Chu Tian did not treat himself as an outsider. Miracle City has cooperated with the Eternal Forest of Chaos for many days and it seems like there are some results. The elves of the Forest of Chaos can gather together, this is very rare. An elven city lord said with a smile, there are no transport towers in the forest cities, so unless there is something important, we don't even think about this kind. That's right, City Lord Chu Tian's skills are truly admirable. Another elven city lord sighed in praise, the elves have fallen too far behind the humans. Chu Tian immediately said, actually the humans are still the same. Cooperating with miracle commerce in the elven language is already at the forefront, ha. Augusta and the old-fashioned counselors all had ugly expressions on their faces. The elves had relations with miracle commerce and there were more and more elves that wanted to reform. These city lords didn't have much contact with the Eternal Forest, not even meeting once in 100 years, so they didn't strictly follow the Eternal Forest's rules. Now the Elven King was using transport towers to connect the various places. The Elven city lords all stood on the Elven King's side. Chu Tian sat down with the Elven King, and Meng Yingying had already taken out the steaks she prepared. Everyone come and try Miracle City steaks. This is cooked by our most outstanding source energy chef. Thank you, Yingying. It really is too delicious. Try our Silver Moon Forest's miracle fruit. Meng Yingying was very beautiful and had a simple and lively personality, being easy to get along with. Not to mention that Meng Yingying often used her image to make movies, and these movies were very popular among the elves, so Yingying was considered a celebrity among the elves. Everyone fought to give her delicious food to try. This is my cell phone number, everyone can contact me if there's anything. What? You don't have cell phones or communication devices? It's fine, we'll arrange it early and let the signal cover the area. The elven food exchange this time allowed the elves from different areas to get to know each other, as well as letting the elves meet Meng Yingying and Chu Tian. Everyone tasted the specialties and delicacies of their respective areas and quickly became familiar with each other. Meng Yingying decided to bring everyone to Miracle City to play tomorrow, which made the young elves very excited. The elves had a very rich spiritual life. Halfway through the gourmet conference, there were fashion shows, art exhibitions, tea parties, and music exchanges. Chu Tian finally understood why the elf civilization developed so slowly. It was because the elves never grew tired of these trivial things, especially the arts. This was probably due to the nature of the elves. The elves naturally didn't like fighting, therefore their desire for power, authority, and wealth was not as strong as humans. Chu Tian saw the excited elves and felt very happy in his heart. I suggest that we hold more exchanges like this. It doesn't have to be limited to the elves, the large races of the forest and even the large races of the continent can all participate. This way we can communicate and improve. Nonsense. Augusta said with a snort, crude spirit beasts and hypocritical humans, nothing good will happen if these races are with the elves. The elves don't need to interact with these cruel and sinister races. This old man's thoughts were too extreme. Chu Tian wanted to properly teach him a lesson. The Elven King said with a smile, City Lord Chu Tian's idea isn't bad, but this transport tower is not cheap. Although the elves have a free quota, if we hold a large-scale event, we might not be able to afford it. With several dozen transport towers in the forest, if they operated normally in the future, it would be normal for them to make several 100,000 source stones a month. If there were tens of thousands of people teleporting back and forth, the consumption would be too large. Even a large power like the Eternal Forest wouldn't be able to afford it. Chu Tian's heart skipped a beat and he calmly said, the elves are rich, would they care about this little bit of money? City Lord Chu Tian's words are wrong. An elven city lord said, the elves have never done business. Although we do have some source stones, it is the savings of our ancestors. If we keep spending it like this, we will run out of resources. Now that the Elven region and Miracle City are connected, the opportunity for us to deepen our cooperation has come. I want to work together with our strong points and conditions. The future will be very worth looking forward to. The Elven King said with a nod. Vice City Lord Meng Qinggu has already discussed the details. The elves will act as the regional communication and information technology agents, and the cities will open miracle shopping centers. This will allow the elves to buy things from all over the continent without going out. Even without merchants, they can sell their specialties to all parts of the continent. This will not destroy the elves' teachings and will allow the elves to prosper. Augusta did not directly oppose this. This was the Elven Council's bottom line. No wonder the Elven Council did not stop the Elven King. The young miss already discussed the details of the cooperation. Did she really have 3 heads and 6 arms? Chu Tian's heart skipped a beat and he suddenly had an idea. Actually, I have another idea and suggestion. I think it will be very beneficial to the development of the elves. The Elven King knew that the humans had many ideas, but since Chu Tian said this, of course he had to listen. What is it? Chu Tian carefully told him his idea. The Elven King's eyes lit up and he discussed it with the Elven city lords around him. The elven city lords all nodded, like they were all in favor of this plan. There were even some who had red faces as they paid their respects to Chu Tian. After all, Miracle Commerce had given the elves a large amount of help on this matter. Vivian was even more pleasantly surprised. She specially invited Chu Tian over to let Chu Tian have a good relationship with the elves. She never thought that this kind of opportunity would allow the elves to discuss such an important matter. In the future, the cooperation between the elves and Miracle City would become even closer. Chu Tian saw the elves happily accept this proposal and he was very satisfied. This was because Chu Tian understood that although this plan seemed like Miracle City would suffer a loss, it was actually a win-win situation. Even Miracle City's biggest problem would be solved by a large half. The next morning. Vice City Lord, did you hear? The elves have just announced a large matter with that fellow city lord. Dolores suddenly rushed over. Meng Qinggu was busy with official business and slightly knit her brows when she heard this. She knew that Dolores was not a person who made a fuss over nothing, so it was definitely something big for her to be this excited. Why did Chu Tian run over to the elves? What did he do this time? Dolores slightly swallowed her saliva. The elves have announced the establishment of the forest's second bank and the continent's second bank, the Elven Bank. Meng Qingwu's eyes popped out. The elves were opening a bank? Was there a mistake? Meng Qingwu quickly understood the situation and was shocked by the results. The matter of the elves opening a bank was true, and from the elves' perspective, this was completely understandable. This was because the elves had already connected all the transportation routes and the Miracle Shopping Center's platform would soon be completed and the communication platform would soon be completed. Whether it was selling resources, building manufacturing, selling specialties, or developing technology, as well as the entertainment industry, the elves would definitely have a wave of entrepreneurship. The elves announcing the bank was to prepare for this. The Eternal Forest and the large forest cities would all invest their money into the bank and give it to the entrepreneurial elves as loans. Wouldn't this promote the development of the elves? Of course, this bank model was good, but it wasn't something they could do just because they wanted to. Chu Tian played a key role in this. He first announced that he would sell 10 space warehouses to the elves, allowing the elves to use them as a space treasury for the bank. Other than that, he announced that he would sell 10 smart brains to the elves, allowing the elves to create a sophisticated and intelligent banking platform. In other words, Miracle Commerce would fully support the Elven Bank in terms of technology. But why was this? Once the Elven Bank appeared, wouldn't most of Miracle Bank's limelight be stolen? After all, the elves had a large influence in the forest. Even if they didn't mention the influence of the elves themselves, just the elven cities alone were enough to create a large business system. The elves had absolute trust in the Eternal Forest and the Elven King, therefore they were 100% assured in storing their source stones. The other races in the forest also had faith in the elves. The Elven Bank would expand even faster than Miracle Bank in the future, so what was Miracle City planning? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.